Hello, and before you get started on this episode of Zapped to the Past, we would just like to give a massive shout out to the following people: Andy Marsh, Cole Hutchinson, David Hearn, Sven Oser, 2000 DC, Gary Heather, Roger McNally, Lee Dove, Ben Granville, Mark Fletcher, Etienne Vettingfeld, Niall Bullitt, Alexander Gosling, Tim TJ Walker, Phil Sowerby, Joshua K, Dominic Kendrick, Rune P, Nick James, Daniel Spreadbury, Peter Price, Richard Davey, Dennis B, AL82 Retro, Liam Carew, Dylan Darch, Alistair McMillan, Mark Schutz, Dan Wales, Gary Wilson, Oscar Jacobson, Brian Howarth, Rob Clayton, Clyde Radcliffe, Juan Luis Sanchez, Adam Askew, Leo Staples, Jason Hutchins, David Stringer, Chris Snowden, David Winter, Mike Retrotech, and John Ebbs. These amazing people have backed our Patreon at the C64 tier. Support they offer, well, it's just plain awesome. If you want to join them and get a mention in next month's shout out, access to our Discord server, early access to ad-free episodes along with any special releases we put out, along with anything else we can think of, sign up by the 18th of the month at patreon.com/zapped to the past, for probably less than the price of a pint of beer. And now, on with the episode. And welcome to episode 163 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last time on our main episodes, we looked at our first batch of games from issue 67 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were zonked out by Zombie, felt lonely in Golden Axe, and went a bit flicky in Quick Snacks. This week, we conclude our look at the games in October 1990, along with what was also lighting up our TV and cinema screens that month. Graham, it is the end of the penultimate month of the year. Are the signs good for a bounteous harvest of games? Or is it another winter where we must suffer the meals cooked by Win Bobner?
We are definitely sailing towards the end of 1990, and so as we say goodbye to November, a month that also saw the world premiere of the classic John Hughes film, Home Alone, in Chicago. Anyone for tennis? Or as Sean Connery might say, anyone for tennis? Because it's kind of Tennessee. Anyway, we grab some rackets and head to the confusing world of orthographic sports to see if our love is better than our deuce in tiebreak, and then lose our classic fedora, and with it, any number of potential IP infringement lawsuits, and once again assume the form of our much-loved minuscule explosive lobbing adventurer in Rick Dangerous 2. November is always a troubled month. All the excitement's at the start with the 5th and the fireworks, then it's basically a holding pattern until the more exciting December comes along. Poor old November. Anyway, as we try and figure out why I say the word nuance way too often in this episode, we focus our attention on guiding a ball into a hole. No, it's not snooker, or golf, or pool, or any traditional ball-in-hole game. This is the wobble-filled angular momentum challenge world of Tilt. After that, we explore the Pacific conflict once again, this time in the belly of a US Navy-powered Hellcat, as we swoop dive and jerk across the skies in the title doing a lot of the heavy lifting game, Wings of Fury. Before we finally dust off the old long stick bats, grab a handful of dimpled balls and some egg cups to balance them on, and head to the extreme well-mowed plains and greens for a round of traditional ball-in-hole with Greg Norman's Ultimate Golf. We are now getting very, very close to the end of the year, and that can only mean the Golden Bread Bin Awards are very soon. Though with some of these games, the gold is losing its luster, and the bread is looking more like penicillin. Still, onward! He can't cook, he can't even kick!
That's the one thing he could do. He could kick. He kicked shins. He kicked shins.
He put his leg out.
And people walked into it.
Putting your leg out and kicking are two different things. Ask anyone in the Tottenham Football Club. They'll tell you that.
Will they? Okay.
Yeah. I saw a funny joke about them today, which made me laugh. It's a picture. Someone had put, there's been a giant warning gone out because a giant dust cloud and winds are consuming Britain because someone's opened Tottenham's trophy cabinet.
Apologies to any Tottenham fans who may have there.
I don't think it doesn't mean anything to me because I don't
Graham
like any of them.
Like football, and he's making football jokes.
Well, I didn't make that joke. I'm just regurgitating it, but I thought you might appreciate it because I know you hate them.
I don't hate Tottenham. Nobody hates Tottenham because you can't.
Tottenham. No one to stop them.
No one can stop them.
We're going to do it like we did last year. Why do I even know that?
I don't know. I'm going to stop you talking about Tottenham and doing Tottenham jokes because
I don't know anything about it.
No, you don't. Not at all. Not in the slightest.
I don't even know where they are.
Just to say, we don't get a lot of these from, but and this will tie into actually what we're going to, because obviously we need to talk about that as well. But we Mr. Gary Wilkins, thank you very much for the Ko-fi you bought us. Very great.
Gary Wilkins, amazing.
Gary Wilkins, yeah.
That's not going to get confusing at all.
No, not Gary Wilson. It's Gary Wilkins.
He would never buy us a coffee, the cheap bugger. He would.
He would, but it would be no water in it.
No, brown sauce. Do you want your coffee? This is brown sauce. That's what we call coffee where I live. Fair enough. That's fair.
But Gary did say, and this is going to lead into the next bit, he was hoping to bump into us at the Zapped live event so he could buy us a beer, thank us for all our entertainment, but he missed us. So he didn't. So he bought us a Ko-fi instead, which is very nice. And we are sorry to have missed you. We were about, and obviously, so we went to the Zapped live event last week, and we were about. I'm surprised you didn't see us because we were in the bar and we were wearing Zapped to the Past t-shirts.
Yeah, I mean, we were milling about. We did disappear out for a little bit of fresh air, didn't we? But it was other than that. So. Yeah,
and we went to the music talk. But thank you very much, Gary. And maybe next year if we're there, just keep your eye out for us and we can maybe say.
By the way, we were spotted on the music talk. I don't know if you know that.
Were we?
I got a message from my friend Paddy and he said, I saw you at that talk. I thought it was you. Because he said, were you on the left on the edge? I was like, yeah, because I had to make room for people coming in from the side door where it got quite busy in there. So I was he was like, he said, it's really, he said, I saw you sat there. I was like, yeah, well. Because I didn't know they were live streaming that, but so they were apparently.
Oh, well, okay. Wow. Yeah, I had no idea it was done. But it was a good weekend, wasn't it? It was a good do. It was a bit of a do.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a bit of a do, and it was a good do.
It was a lot of fun, actually. I came out of there with like a really peculiar, like tan from all the televisions. I don't know if did you get that?
Just on one half of my face, it was like I've been to Close Encounters convention.
Yeah, I just got like a cathode ray tan. I was like, wow, that's great. I didn't realise it had that. So I came out of there a lot browner. But I'd also been playing like a lot of Commodore 64 things in there, so it explains it.
We also played that cheating pet version of Space Invaders.
Yes, but it wasn't called Space Invaders, was it? Something like something Invasion or something.
Pet Vaders or something.
Pet Vaders, yeah, or Pet Invasion. I don't know. It was annoying.
It was. It crashed back to the start when you got to the last one.
It did, yeah, it did. Yeah.
Dead annoying. I was just like, this is dead annoying. I tried three times and it happened every time. And I was like, I'm not having this, not having it. But anyway, we had a good time. We met some of our patrons. We bumped into loads of people, actually.
We did.
Brian Howarth, he grabbed us at the start, just after we got annoyed at Pet Vaders, I think. He said hello. We had
an intense technical 45-minute lecture from Dr. Mike Clark about sound chip and sound wave organization. I learned things in that tech talk. That impromptu TED talk that he gave us. I learned shit. I learned shit about stuff.
Absolutely. No, and I don't think there's ever been a case sort of thing where a man has used his hands to demonstrate SID wavelengths more in a short period of time.
Totally cool. I mean, I got it. I mean, goodness me. The guy explained everything in such detail. Incredible that he's got all that in his head. Really.
We met Dr. Goggles. That was good.
We did.
We had a good chat with Dr.
Goggles. We did.
Stephen Robertson. Yeah, I think Steve Robertson.
We did.
Robertson.
Sir to you and me, yeah.
Sir to you and me, yeah.
By the way, as I've listened over the audio, and I hope you'll forgive me for saying this, but as I listened over the audio, it didn't occur to me at the time, but Dr. Goggles sounds alarmingly like Brian Cox, the scientist. Sounds like
he does a little, yeah.
It sounded quite a lot. When you listen to the recording, and again, I apologise, Dr. Goggles, if that's something you've heard a lot, and you're now going, oh, for God's sake, not someone else. But upon listening to the recording, having never heard you speak before, other than for a little bits of snippets here and there, it was quite fascinating to hear, and also your ideas and theories around time travel, I think are genuinely realistic. So.
Absolutely, and just remember, things can only get better.
He's probably not going to be a patron now. Don't get upset by that.
Please don't.
It's all for fun.
It's all good fun. Don't hit us if you see us at the Zap Live event next year or something. That would be bad. But no, yeah, it was good. And who else did we bump into? And Mike. And obviously Mike's Retro
Vintage Tech Mike, yeah.
Mike's Vintage
Tech.
I call him Vintage. I always call him Retro Tech.
I know, when he came over and told us off for that. He said, it's not that, it's this. And we're like, okay. So I've left that in because it's a stark reminder of the incapacity of us to change. And you just proved it again. Sorry, Mike, Vintage Tech.
I can't help myself. But something is, it's like, I'm sorry, I've just got a Mandela effect about this, I think. Because like, how I remember it's how I remember it. So I do apologise. It's actually, I've got his book. It's Mike Nerney, isn't it? Mike Nerney.
Yeah,
so, but we had a
sound guy as well.
We had a really good sit down chat and a few beers, and that was good.
We did have a really good laugh, actually. The day was really good fun. And everyone we met was really, really lovely. Really nice.
And I mean, just, Camel off Rulmuck. I can't remember your real name. So, but yeah, you came up, said hello. And just people were coming up and saying hello that we didn't know, that are not patrons, just we listen.
Yeah.
I can't remember your name. I'm very terrible because it's been a week. But you came up and you just put your phone in front of us and went, "That's you."
You did, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but thanks for that. Everybody came up and said hello. Was great.
Fun.
Facebook as well. Linus Tech Tips. That's the other one. He came up and said hello too.
He did.
So thank you very much, everyone that said hello and everyone that chatted. It was it made our day. It really did.
It did.
So there you go. That's the Zap Live. You should, if you didn't go, you should go next year.
Go next year when it's on. I'm sure it'll be just as popular and just as rewarding with just as much good stuff.
It will be. I'm sure will be. Right. There you go. That's the preamble for this week. Should we get into some games?
I think it's time.
I think it's about time to get into some games. So, Graham, let's get into our first game this week. And well, that first game, it's a close one. It's a tie break. Hey! This was £9.99. It's got 80%. This comes from Ocean Software. This does. The House of Quality.
Yes.
They've come to
be known as, yeah.
Another entry into the C64's long line of tennis games. And to give it its actual full name, it is Adidas Championship Tiebreak.
Of course it is.
Yeah. So another Adidas branded game after the options heavy football one the other week. If you remember that. Still waiting for the options to load. Will it fare any better though? Because that one wasn't very good. So as I said, it was 9.99, 80%. That's a decent score. It's not a bad score for a tennis game.
It's an ocean game.
It's got the ocean tax.
Exactly. So,
what score would it get? Times by 3. Okay.
Yeah. What score? 80%. What does that equate to? 800 quid in an envelope. Oh, okay.
Pats the old suitcase. This was published by Starbite Software. Coding is by Andreas Siebeck, I guess, and the music is by Stefan Hartwig.
Okay.
And box art is by, Salal Kandimiroglu.
Okay. That's good enough, I think.
Yeah, okay. It's the only game listed for Andreas Siebeck, but Stefan Hartwig's done a number of weird and wonderful games that never grace the pages of Zap. But he's also listed on sound for Turrican and Turrican 2. So I don't know what he did on those games, but he's listed on there on Lemon. So it's a tennis game, this. And we've had a few of them on the C64. In fact, you go back to episode 2, part 1, you'll find us talking about Activision's on-court tennis.
That's right.
That was slow, wasn't it? I seem to remember that being really slow.
Wasn't fast.
It wasn't fast. Episode 6, we had international tennis, and we've had more since then. I'm sure we had more, but
3D tennis.
There was, C64 is not short of tennis games. That's your fancy. So, what does this bring new to the table that we can't get and say that Pro Tennis Tour, International 3D Tennis that we looked at recently? Well, Graham, how about tennis viewed from a top-down perspective, a gauntlet-style tennis, if you will?
Okay.
Does that garner your interest? That raise your interest anymore? Are you a little bit more interested now?
No, because the nuances of striking a tennis ball can't be properly perceived from looking directly down on the court, especially not all of it.
Okay. So. Okay. So the game has got a nice loading screen with the guy from the cover diving for the ball. It's very action-packed shot.
Very action-packed,
and it's something you'll never see in the game.
No, you'll never see it. And also, that's limb smashing. No, shortly after that, it's like, as his bones shatter.
He dive like that on a hard clay court.
Yeah, or AstroTurf. The friction burns. Everyone would be like, ooh.
And
He's sitting down for a while.
Oh, you can see the skin from his knee 3 feet behind him.
Look how red his knee is. Oh. Looks like Father Christmas's nose.
It's redder than when someone slammed a ball against your thigh on a cold November afternoon at school.
Yeah, exactly.
You
get conker whipped by some fool.
Yeah. Big bad memories. There's a nice bit of music for the loading screen, though. This is all right. It's quite Maniacs in style. I thought he was part of the Maniacs. I went and had a look, but he doesn't seem to be.
Unless a maniac. He's not quite maniac enough.
Yeah, he's more. Yeah, he's a
wild.
Loony.
Yeah, a bit wild, crazy. Yeah, he's a hooligan. Yeah,
he's a hooligan of noise. Yeah, but it is like that. And I thought because the Maniacs of noise, when you go look at their wiki, it's longer than Spinal Tap. The number of members they've had.
Yeah, there was a collective.
Yeah, which I never realised at the time. I just thought it was about a couple of them, but it's loads of them. But he's not part of that. I just thought he may have been because it sounds the same.
It does sound similar.
So when the game loads, we get a rather basic title screen. And again, another decent, if not outstanding, piece of music. There's 2 bits of music are all right in this. From here, we have the options to play a world tournament, a tournament, or training. That's what you can do. So just to go through these, I'll go backwards. So training allows us to play a single match, really, either singles or doubles. You can have up to 4 people playing this. Because Ocean were actually releasing some kind of multi-tap. I think we mentioned it before, according to the review. So you could actually do 4-player tennis, which is quite
if you wanted
novel.
to.
Quite, yeah. If you had 3 friends who wanted to play this with you, okay. And you can do that with singles or doubles, how you see fit. So you could have 1 player, 3 computers, 2 players on either side, 2-player cooperative against a computer. It's up to you. 3, it's all up to you. In this mode, you play, I think, the best of 3 or 5 games. So you just pick, first to 2 or first to 3 is. There's also no guide here to help, so it's not training as I understand it.
No.
It's just you play it's a quick play mode.
Yeah.
So that's what this is. So don't be fooled. Training is not training. They're in a part in it where he goes, right, to hit the ball better, do this, to be here, do that. None of that. It's just, here, go play. Oh, okay. So you can also choose the type of surface to play on. So you've got there's 4 types. There's a green one, a blue one, and 2 red ones, but one of the red ones has a grey background. So the green is grass. That is the ball will go fast. There is blue for artificial grass, which is a medium speed surface. There's a red court with a red background, which is for clay, which again is medium speed. And there's a red court with a grey background, which is PVC. This is also fast.
PVC?
That's what it said in the instructions.
Kinky.
I know. Absolutely. The tournament mode allows you to set up a tournament between you and your friends. And you can have up to 10 players in this if you've got enough friends who want to play this. And you can save and load the tournament as you progress, which I guess it's nice, but you're probably not going to have that. But it's up to you how many people you want to have in it. But it is players only. There's no CPU, so that's that tournament mode. The meat of the single player game though is in the world tournament. All right, so that's the mode you're probably going to play most of if you're going to play this game, because you can have up to 16 players of either CPU or player control players, and you play it, like I said, playing through a full-on tournament. So last 16 down to last 8, down to last 4, 2, 1. So if you want to go that far, you can't just have 2 players, so just play a final. You can have 4 players, and so on and so forth. When you have selected the variety of players you want, you then get to pick the tournament, and you have the choice of Wimbledon, Paris, Melbourne, or there's 2 in New York. And these are played on different services, as noted above. Although I picked Wimbledon, and it ended up on artificial grass.
Same.
On the blue court, which was odd.
Bullshit.
That's what I thought as well. I was expecting to be green.
Famous for
it's Wimbledon. Wimbledon is the grass court. New York is the clay court, I think. Well, I don't understand.
Francis Baguette, isn't it?
You play on. Yeah, that's not one of the courts, is it? It's not. That's the PVC.
And they play the game with baguettes.
Partly viewed croissants.
Yeah, bread rackets, and they batter croissant across. It's a whole different game over there.
Absolutely, Cilla made. Once done, though, once you've chosen all that, it'll give you the first game, and we're away. Essentially, you're off. So, as noted, it's a top-down tennis game, and it's directly top-down. No angle to this. You are just looking. It's gauntlet style.
It's all down.
It's straight up down.
Yeah.
So we cannot see the problem with this. Okay, and this is what the main problem I had with this game. You can't see the entirety of the court at any one time because it's vertical.
Yep.
Right? So we can see kind of all of one side of the court and about half of the other side of the court, just sort of beyond the boxes where you've got to serve into. Those kind of serving boxes, whatever. Beyond that, you can't see. All right, you can't see. So we'll come to why that's a problem in a little bit later, but you're probably guessing why. The players come running on from the side. One runs off screen to the top. Where's he gone?
Yeah, he's just gone.
And the other goes to the bottom to start serving. The controls in the game, they're pretty simple once you get used to them, I got to say. So if you've seen some of the other games more recently, you don't move the player. They move automatically to where the ball is going. Mm-hmm. Although you can override this at certain points. If you actually do want to control the player, you can
confusingly
push them to the net and stuff like that, but you won't want to. All you have to do is really concentrate on hitting the ball back and timing your swing. That's really it. That's all you got to do. So for serving then, you move the joystick in a direction. You only press fire for a certain way, but for serving, you just move it in a direction. Your player will throw the ball up, let go of the joystick, and you just basically let go of the joystick to hit the ball as it's in the air. Time it right, you'll serve properly. If you wait too long or even hit it at the top of the swing, you'll always hit it out, which is annoying. Or if you wait too long, you'll hit it short and hit it into the net. But you'll get a hang of it. It's quite easy to actually get the serves right once you get going. It's not hard. So once the ball is in play, you can do a number of shots by moving the joystick in the 4 different directions. So up is for just a normal straight shot, just bump, hit it back, flat racket. Right is a top spin shot. So you move it to the right, and then it's the same way. So you move to the right and let go. Up right is a top spin shot. Left is a back spin shot, and down is a lob. Okay. Pressing fire when doing any of these adds power to the shot, so makes it, in quantity instructions, it's a longer shot. You need to do this with every shot from the back of the court, otherwise you'll just hit the net every time.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll figure this out, because I was like, why are they just hitting the net? And then you have to realize, you have to press the fire. So you press the fire, do your shot, and then let go of the fire, and then the thing together, and it'll do a long, and you'll hit it to the back of the court, basically. So that's it. So usually with harder net, and this will swing. So what happens is, so essentially, as the ball is coming towards you, you hold the joystick in a position to move it to the right, left, up, or down. Usually with the fire button held down, and what your player will swing the racket backwards and hold it there, and then you let go of the joystick to start your forward swing when the ball is at the right place. So where you want to hit it. Should you connect with it, the ball will be hit back. And the angle you hit it back is determined by where in the swing you hit it. So if you're doing a sort of forehand, if you face to the right, and you catch it early, you'll kind of hook it to the left across the court. Okay, because that's what would happen. If you hit it straight, so if you catch it full on just at the right angle, you'll hit it straight back. If you hit it late, you'll hit it to the right. No, yeah, to the right, yes. So it's left with a hook, right. So if you're facing up screen, and that's kind of how it works. It's pretty straightforward once you start playing. And essentially all this comes down to is getting your timing right, which, though, is easier said than done for reasons. We'll come to them. If your opponent tries to lob you, then what happens is you take position under the ball and you'll kind of go into you push forward and you'll go into the smash. Like if you're waiting for the smash to come down, the ball to come down, you just press forward and then release it at the right time to smash it. That's harder said than it's done, though. I missed loads of smashes. It's dead hard to get the time right. Some I hit back, some I didn't, whatever. The game itself, it's just normal tennis. Plays out with it like normal tennis. So first, to get 40 and then win, whoever gets the next point wins the game. If it goes to 40 all or deuce, then you've got to win by 2 points in a row to take the game. The score pops up in a little bit of text at the bottom. There's no UI. There's absolutely no UI at all. Nope. The only bit is a bit of text that pops up to tell you the 40 love, 15 love, whatever, just comes up in the sort of within the actual court itself. That's kind of it. First to 6 games wins a set, and so on and so on. It's tennis. That's what it is. At the end of the game, because you're in a tournament, the tournament is saved. You have the option. So if you're playing one player against all the rest, this gets a bit slow and tedious, this bit, because you have to have all the other games and it saves after every single one. It kind of simulates them. You can choose to watch them as well. I don't know why you would, but you might want to. It's up to you. But it saves game, and then once all the games have been played in that round of the tournament, you move on to the next one, and so on until whoever wins, and that's it. And then you start again. So that's it, really, for this game. There's nothing else. There's no other tournaments. There's no prizes. There's no sort of ongoing stuff. There's no career mode. It's just these 3 modes. The tennis controls the same in every mode. So that's kind of it. From a visual standpoint, there are some nice touches to this. Like there's the ball's quite nicely sort of animated. I like the splash of sort of dust that pops up when the ball bounces on the floor. The players are chunky but fairly well animated in the way that they are, because top down, and the way the ball grows bigger when you do a lob is a nice touch. Things like that. That sort of bounder style. There are ball boys that will run across the court when the ball hits the net, and line judges on the side during the tournaments. It's basic, functional. It looks like a tennis court from above. I mean, it's exactly that. It's it's a 2D orthographic tennis court looking straight down, gauntlet style players, and that's it. But those little kind of things are all right. The players, it moves fast though. The players and the ball all move speedily. There's no slowdown, and it plays a fast game of tennis, and that's all right. But the problem is, because of the vertical nature of the game, it has to scroll up and down as the ball goes from side to side. And this is where the biggest issue of the game lies for me. You can't see your player when you return the ball because not all the court is on. So you can actually run towards the net to bring your player on, but then you're at the net and you kind of less time to do it. But if you're at the back of the court, you will run to where the ball's going, but it becomes problematic because I was never quite sure where my player was behind the baseline in order to feel 100% confident of returning the ball. Remember, you don't move it does. So you've got to do your shot as to where you think you are, where it's going. And there's just something not right in not being able to see your player when a fast ball is incoming towards you, and you need to know the precise moment to let go of the joystick in order to make the shot and the angle you want. You have very little time to do that. You kind of get used to it after a little while, but it never feels properly intuitive as it should do. So time and time again, I didn't hit it where I wanted to. I found this frustrating. I kind of got better at the game, but it was points where I was like, I released it. Oh, this is annoying. It didn't break the game. I played quite a lot of it. I played quite a few matches because obviously for the podcast, I thought I'd give it a good go and give it a good try. I just felt it made it more difficult than it needed to be. And it was also, this was another problem. It's also compounded by the fact it's impossible to read what type of shot was coming at you. Mm-hmm. So loads of times I'd swing as the ball hit the floor, only for it to be a drop shot, a backspin shot, and the ball just basically stopped and my swing missed completely. So it's like, well, there's no way to read the spin, not that I could see on the ball. It's too small, and it's moving too fast. And the number of times this happened was too many for my liking. Because it's viewed from the top down, you can't see what the other. If you're doing a top spin, like you kind of hit it flat from the top, or the bottom spin, you hit it, underneath. You can read those things in a more a view that you can get better. And it kind of works better. Here, you can't. There's no telling what's coming at you. So it's just how they've hit the ball. You can react accordingly. To sort of delay your swing if it's a backspin, or you do it quicker if it's a topspin. But here, every animation is the same. There's no visual indicator that I could see on the ball, or in any way to show me what to expect and how to adjust my timing accordingly. I don't know if they could have done something like change the color of the ball or something, depending on the shot incoming, to sort of allow you to sort of figure out what's coming or something. I don't know, but it just doesn't. Too many times it caught me out. And on top of this, there's no difficulty slider that I could ascertain. There's there's loads of other there's loads of computer players that you can play against, and they're all amazing.
Yep.
So it took me ages just to win one game. And the one game, I actually got battered constantly, let alone a set or a match. So I could see this being more fun in multiplayer, but in single player, it's a very tough hill to climb to get anywhere decent. And the rewards aren't enough. And you're punished too often for things that you can't predict. And I didn't like not being able to see my player all the time. It's a simple thing, but I just like to see my player.
Yep.
I don't think it's too much to ask for. There are kind of moments where I got into the swing of it, if you'll pardon the pun, and I had some good rallies going on, and did find myself annoying. But then one of those annoyances would happen, and I felt cheated by the whole thing. It was annoying. The score, I think, is a bit high for this. There's a decent tennis game here, maybe not in single player. There's too many sort of annoyances. I'm not quite sure that works. The scrolling screen, not being able to see properly, it's too frustrating to hook you in. And the big thing is there's no real reason to come back to it. There's no ongoing, like in international 3D tennis, there was that your career mode you had going where you were getting money and you were getting better in your progression. There's nothing of that in here, and it just feels like it's a tennis game and that's it. You play tennis. There's nothing further to bring you back to it. So on the whole, it's it moves fast. There's no bugs or anything like that, but it's just, I think it's the wrong view. It's the wrong view, and that's, I think, what scuppers the whole thing. Well, what did you think?
Yeah, look, the benchmark for this game, right? Let's just take it right back to basics. Pong. If you can't get the basics of Pong right, then, and really what you're looking at, the reason you're so frustrated is because what you're looking at is a tennis game played on a table tennis table. Yeah. And it doesn't work for a number of different reasons. The top-down view gives you no sense of the depth or angle required to really understand what you're doing. So it's just smacking a ball up and down. That's Pong. That's table tennis. That's Pong. But even table tennis, if they'd have made that into a bat, you would have had more of a table tennis game than you would. Instead of it looking like, for me, it weirdly looked like a toilet with a seat up, your little player, if you look at it from the top down. There's parts that are like, the tennis itself is a good adaptation of tennis, as in all the stuff around it. But when you finally get to the implementation, it's a characterless void of angles. There's literally nothing fun about it. It's just, there's a grey border, there's the court drawn out with the lines and the monocolour background. There's your player that you periodically see every now and again. And, it's just, there's no atmosphere to it. It's devoid of atmosphere. And weirdly, the way he swings the bat, I thought it looked a bit like he was holding a baseball bat more than a tennis racket.
Yeah. It feels like
you're going to wallop it.
So it's always flat, isn't it? And that's why you can't tell what kind of shot he's done. That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly, and that's key. That's why all those other games, those tennis games, have chosen those angles that they've chosen. I mean, we joked about the 3D tennis having some of those really silly screenshot-friendly type angles. But fundamentally, the angle you play the game at, you need to have kind of a elevated isometric view, for want of a better description, or certainly an elevated version of the court, so you can properly see where you're positioning the ball and how it's. Now, that's been done several times. I can see why they tried this. They've gone for a kind of micro soccer tennis, thinking if that view works for these football games, maybe it can work for other sports. No, it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't for many reasons. The least of which is if you're going to do that, you need to see the whole court. And how are you supposed to judge a lob based on looking at it top down? Really, it's impossible unless they increase the size of the ball as it gets higher, which I've seen games do.
And they do that. It does do that in the game.
Yeah,
but it's impossible to judge it coming down. I missed too many of them. Yeah, that's
my point. So when the ball goes up, it's all about how you hit it. And the problem that they identified with the sensible one was that you're too busy thinking about that and not thinking about hitting the ball back. And they've kind of fallen into that trap with this by all the tennis game around it kind of works, but when you get into the game itself, it's just table tennis and it's not done correctly. And those fundamental errors mean it's a big switch off, which is a shame because multiplayer with all those nuances, had they just figured that bit out, I think this would have been a really good contender for a good tennis game. But without that and a bit crowd noise and a bit of ear-pleasing stuff just to cheer you on a bit, it's just devoid of life. You look at that screen, when you look at the actual game when it first starts, it's really bleak. It's really bleak, just this grey, lifeless border, your player just out there isolated, there's no sound. It's really bleak. Yeah. It's Pong. At least Pong is the decentest to be on a really 1970s machine and bleek.
Would this have been better, do you think, if they'd have done it horizontal and actually got all the court on?
You need to see all the courts, as simple as that. Now, that would have made even more challenges for the angles if you're playing it left to right and hitting it across, but it might have made more sense to do it that way. I mean, why not do it if you're going to do it that way? Bump sets, all the sports games we've played that have been this kind of, that could have done it top down, like bump set spike and things like that, they all choose an angle because with these kind of things, unless it's snooker where it's all on a flat plane, I mean, it works, but when it's not like this, when there's nuances to how the angles and things are going to work, it's just not very good. I had a hard time playing it and getting fun out of it.
Yeah, the only side-on one we saw, I think was international tennis, wasn't it? I think that's the only side-on one.
And like I said, they kind of work. But this viewpoint, unless it's table tennis, and that has worked, and even they chose slightly asymmetric for that.
The table tennis ones,
because
Pong and
you need to be able to judge the distance and angle, and the human brain is not going to be easy. Not going to be easy for you to look at that top down and view where or how you're going to hit that back, especially when you can't actually see the player half the time. It's just a category of silly mistakes that have led to that. 80% get fucked. No. No, I mean 50% maybe because it's there's half of it's a good tennis game, but the other half when you play it, not so much. Didn't they do that with a football game though? Lots of good football options. When you get to the game, you're like, hey.
Yeah,
but no.
So no to tie break or Adidas Championship tie break, as it should be called. There we go. That's our first game this week. There's only did I say we've only got 4 this week? We've got 4 this week. Is it only 4? 1, 2? No, it's 5 this week. There's actually 5 games this week. But yeah, there you go. That's our first one. Let's move on to our second game this week. And Graham, that's over to you. It's Rick Dangerous 2.
Certainly is. A $9.99 game. Published by MicroStyle, was developed by Core Design. Bob Churchill, he made Rick Dangerous 1 and Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Yeah, of course he did. It's the same engine.
Simon Phipps, he did... now, this is interesting. Simon Phipps also credits for Bob Churchill. It's also got Terry Lloyd on it. Now, he did Auf Wiedersehen Monty, and can't you bloody well tell?
Yeah.
Coder was Chris Long. Graphics are by Pete Short. Not really. That's by Simon Phipps and Terry Lloyd again. And the musician was Dave Pridemore. Same basic team that did Rick Dangerous, really, with the exception of, I think, Terry Lloyd, but he might have had something to do with it as well. So that's who they were. That's what they did. It's a classic platform game, Rick Dangerous 2. It was, as I said, developed by our friends at Core Design. It's the sequel, of course, to Rick Dangerous, continuing the adventures of that particular character. It was, in that version, very heavily inspired by Indiana Jones. Something the way they make a point of not being in this one.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
You know, right at the beginning of the game, in fact, there's a little animation where they knock his hat off to sort of say, this is not Indiana Jones, all right? Now, I don't know if you remember the end of Rick Dangerous. Do you remember the end of Rick Dangerous?
Aliens arrived, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly where this one picks up the mantle.
Which I quite liked.
It's a direct sequel. Yeah, it's a direct sequel. The invasion comes to Earth as Rick Dangerous 2 begins. UFOs land in London, in fact, Hyde Park. So at this point, it's like, what are we going to do? Who are we going to get to do this thing? We know there's a dodgy bad character that's doing stuff. And of course, that's going to be you. And like I said, that intro, there's a nice little intro sequence at the beginning of the game. There's some nice little intro bits. It's a well-produced game, actually, in that respect. It feels like a nice, complete game. There's a number of changes to the gameplay indicated by Rick Dangerous 2. This is according to one of the blurbs. It's more complex and more challenging. You're now armed with laser guns and bombs that can be slid. A slide bomb. So you can strategically place bombs. In other words, they put things down corridors that you got to blow up and you can't crouch properly, so that kind of thing.
Yes.
And you don't have a pogo stick in this, you've got a punch attack, okay? You can also employ a special flying vehicle. Now, I never got as far as that into this game, I have to tell you, but I did go into it and did go into all the different levels. I'll tell you why in a minute. So you have like a little hover thing you can go in. It's actually on the opening title screen, you see it. So it starts, and the opening titles are actually they feel a little bit plain, but it's part of an opening sequence. So there's like a little animation that starts. It's quite nice. The graphics are all right. It's kind of told at the top of the screen. There's some writing at the bottom of the screen. You've got some strange landings of aliens in Hyde Park. Like I say, Rick Dangerous is around and you've got to sort of figure out a way. They build a base, I think, and you've got to, they call it the Fat Guy's headquarters. And I don't know if that's the name of the bad guy, because in some versions of this, I've seen him called something else. But either way, the main baddie has developed a base and you've got to then navigate your way to find these various items to blow the base up, I think. But I've got slightly wrong. In fact, if I look at the little blurb of instructions, such as they are, it says, the adventure continues back in a flash and fearless as ever. Rick Dangerous, intrepid superhero and part-time stamp collector. Did you know that? Philatelist.
He is.
He's a philatelist. Is back after having tackled the Fat Man in his first great adventure. The Fat Man has returned, and Rick must once again do battle to save the Earth from villainous aliens. If he survives the first part of the mission in the spaceship at Hyde Park, London, Rick will face new hazards in the ice caverns of Frisia, the forests of Vegetablia, the atomic mud mines, and finally confront the Fat Man at his headquarters on planet Bath. Ooh. There are electronic detonators in this game. These may be dropped in order to trigger traps, blow away. I'll come to the sort of the things that are in the game itself. You control everything with the joystick. Controls very similarly to Rick Dangerous, actually, apart from the few nuances of the weapon changes. Yeah. So you move around with the joystick, essentially. But if you hold the fire button down, if you push up, you'll shoot like a ray gun, which is different to the first game. But these are all limited supplies of these things you have. If you press sort of down to the left, it does like a slide. Down to the right, it's like an arm slide, they call it. And then if you pull down, you drop a detonator, which you can then... the arm and slide is dropping a detonator, but sliding it to the right. And if you do it down to the left, he slides to the left. And then you've got punch left and right as well. Okay, so the core of the game is principally the same as Rick Dangerous, albeit that the sci-fi twist gives it a kind of non-Rick Dangerous-y vibe, I feel, maybe. It's a non-linear story as such, because you can play the first 4 levels of the game in any order. So there's Hyde Park, London, the ice caverns of Frisia, like I said, the forests of Vegetablia. You can play those first 4 levels in any order you like in order to finish those, because I think you collect something on each level, which then unlocks, if you like, the final Fat Guy's headquarters level. So that's kind of what you've got to do. Now, if you've played Rick Dangerous, you'll know how Rick Dangerous 2 is going to work.
Yep.
So essentially, you have to, once you've started the game and you've decided which level you're going to play, you get a little mini intro sequence, which are all right. They're all right. And there's one for every level. So it tells the story of Rick Dangerous as you go through. If you do them in that order, it kind of gives you there is a story order, but they kind of do tie in together. When you start the game, you've got what you class as a sort of arcade platformer, really, very similar to the way Rick Dangerous worked. In fact, the same as Rick Dangerous.
Yep.
The only difference here is you've got sci-fi twists in some of the levels, which Rick Dangerous didn't have. Rick Dangerous was more leaning into the Indiana Jones thing.
Very much so.
Whereas this one's a bit more leaning into the Auf Wiedersehen Monty thing, I think. And that's kind of the way that Monty on the Run kind of went with Auf Wiedersehen Monty and the later Monty games, is they all went a bit sci-fi as well.
Yeah.
In fact, we commented on the last one, didn't we? The last one we played, that it'd all gone a bit too sci-fi. And I think there's kind of what they've done here is switch the graphics in the engine round to be more like that, but haven't really changed the game that much. So the graphics have a nice look all the way through each of the games. They look like Rick Dangerous graphics, albeit that they're a different theme. You've got ladders, you've got platforms, you've got different items of background that will zap and get in the way, blocks to maneuver. There's on some levels. And in the first level, you've got to navigate around sort of girders and graphics. Your Rick Dangerous is a little higher res sprite, similar to what he was in the first game. I think the enemies are more medium res on this. And now that's, I think, is the same as the first game as well. And they are as varied as they are. They tie into the level that you're on, the various enemies that you come across. And more often than not, these are things just getting in your way. Some of the puzzles in the game are a bit daft, like they were in the previous game. In fact, some of the puzzles in the game are really sort of mini time traps. Now, I'm not a fan of those, where the first level, for example, one of the screens, you've got to run across the screen, for example. Now, if you dawdle, these things shoot you dead and you'll lose one of your lives. The UI for this, by the way, is just a line of text across the bottom of the screen, so which shows you your score, the number of bullets, the number of bombs you've got, and the number of Ricks you've got, which I think you start with 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this game is a clamber your way through the platforms and nuances, figuring out some of the traps in order to get to the final part where I think you pick something up or teleport, one of the two, I think. But that's how each level works. They all work principally the same way with the animations in between. The graphics all look quite nice on each level. They don't look bad. On the first level, it's kind of set, like I said, it's Hyde Park, but you sort of climb in, I think you climb inside is it a spaceship you're in the first one?
Yeah.
So you climb in, so you're inside the spaceship because you sort of have to break out that and teleport to the next one. But I thought the graphics in there look okay. It reminded me a little bit of Dan Dare. It reminded me of a little bit of that in terms of the kind of the futuristic look on it. And there's, as you move around, there's things that you've got to figure out. So there's a thing, like a laser thing shooting down, directly downwards. You've got to find a switch to stop it. And there's these tiny little things in the corners that the switches. If you didn't notice them, you might not notice them.
Yeah, they're hard to see, aren't they? Yeah.
They're tucked away in the corners of things, where you sort of switch things on or off, and they're a bit hard to see. Anyway, as you progress through, you'll get to the second level, or you can choose the second one, which is the ice, what's it called? The ice caverns of Frisia. And again, you get some more themed graphics. There's more enemies in this, and they look a little bit like winter Robin Hoods, and some odd creatures dotted about. But it's principally the same. It's nicely shaded the same, but it's the same ladders, platforms, snowy girders, and it's the same sort of thing where you've got to navigate your sort of way around and figure things out. If you do that, you'll get to the same on stage 3. The graphics are a bit busier. There's a little bit more high res about them, but instead of the ladders and the snowy world, you've now got a non-snowy world. But in this part, you've also got giant boulders to contend with and other enemies of that type. And it follows the same logic. Move around. There's probably something blocking a way you need to go. You've got to figure out how to switch the trip to do the thing, to click on the thing. All the time, if you touch anything, you're dead. So you've got to be very wary about what you touch and how you touch it. And that can prove to be quite annoying. You'll lose lives in this game quickly because it's very difficult. It's actually easier than Rick Dangerous 1, but that's not saying much, was it? Because Rick Dangerous 1 was quite hard. So
yeah, they're notoriously hard, aren't they, these games? Yeah.
They're hard, but they're also hard for, as we said, and I'll come to that in a minute, actually, but if you go through stage 4, it's more of the same. As you go through stage 5, more of the same, albeit that they're themed differently. There's more traps in the level 5, which is the final part. So there's more spike traps and things like that in the wall. It's a lot more like the original Rick Dangerous levels. That's when you get to the Fat Man headquarters.
Yeah.
There is also an ending for the game, which, spoilers and everything, but there is an ending for the game. When you get that, you'll see the fat guy actually comes and teleports away. Your hat will fly back on and you'll teleport after him. And then it says, Rick Dangerous will return, kind of thing, So the fat guy gets away at the end of the game.
Damn him.
I know, damn it. But the third game, as far as I'm aware, was never made. So look at that what you will. That's Rick Dangerous 2. That's how it plays. It's basically the same as Rick Dangerous 1, albeit with a sci-fi twist. And they've tried to take away his Indiana Jones-ness by taking off his hat at the beginning, but they put it back on his head at the end. Okay, fine. It looks nice, this. It does. And there's some really nice graphics details. Exactly what we said about Rick Dangerous. In fact, you could substitute what I'm about to say from this and place it for Rick Dangerous.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I don't think really that there's a lot of development that's happened here since Rick Dangerous 1. There's a few tweaks and nuances, few things, but the principal game is the same, which results in an okay game. It was never terrible, Rick Dangerous. It was just very challenging, and it had lots of silly traps and silly deaths that were memory tests. Mm-hmm. So you'd run across, you'd fall down a pit. All right, next time I run across, I won't fall down the pit. You don't get many chances to do that. With 6 lives, you are not going to do so well. So you need to learn this pretty quickly, which means in reality, all you're really going to do is just try and figure out where all the little traps and fall throughs. I mean, there's one screen where you walk in, you just get shot instantly, and you're like, right, okay, so I've got to make sure I'm not doing that when I first walk on the screen or jumping. It's stuff like that. Now, that's not good game design. That's punitive game design where it's not like it's a Super Meat Boy game where there's lots of fast, rapid deaths. You don't have that many times to do this.
Yeah.
So I don't see how you'd get through all the levels of this game unless well, obviously people have, but you'd have to get really good and remember and write down, make notes and map it out. So this is another game where mapping it would be crucial, I think, because I don't really, and mapping not just the game map, but where things are and what happens on each screen. Because sometimes you'll go in there and if you make a mistake, there's no way around it. You're dead, and then you back to square one. Not fully square one, but in terms of that puzzle screen, you will be. Mm-hmm. So it's just more of the same Rick Dangerous. It's the same issues that Rick Dangerous had because they haven't progressed the game further with the design. They just made more Rick Dangerous. It has all the same problems that Rick Dangerous had: pain in the arse enemies, daft traps, pointless silly deaths, unnecessary puzzle logic that is not a puzzle. It's not a puzzle if it's just something that kills you when you didn't know about it. No, and then so once you've done it once, you know about it. That's not a puzzle. That's not game design. That's just stupid, annoying things to put in a game. Graphics good, as they were in Rick Dangerous. Controls were okay, as they were in Rick Dangerous. It's just more Rick Dangerous. I thought this one got tedious pretty quickly. The sci-fi theme wore thin a little bit. I think it works better when it's Indiana Jones style. Maybe. If you put Indiana Jones on a spaceship, it's not going to work so well. So anyway, all the problems of RD1 inherited for RD2 because it's essentially the same bloody game. I don't know. Can you be bothered with it? A lot of people like the Rick Dangerous games, and I get why. I get it. But for me, I just found this a bit tedious in the same way that I found the first one tedious. It just didn't hold me in it. I think perhaps because there's not a lot of other characters in it, and maybe it needed something like that. Maybe it needed a Marion. Or maybe it needed some, other enemies other than the daft ones that are romping about. But I don't know, maybe it just needed something like that. So it's all a bit solo and a bit thankless. And it's also got all the same stupid problems from Rick Dangerous 1. Make it better. If you're going to release a sequel, make it better than the first one. But, fix some of those stupid problems. That was my thought on it anyway. What about you?
I mean, yeah. I think, it's the most blatant case of if you like the first and you'll like this that I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it's really obvious because straight away you're getting killed left, right, and centre by things you've absolutely no way of avoiding or knowing they're going to be there. You climb. There's one bit where you have to you climb up a ladder and you have to. There's a switch just off to the right, but you switch it, you get shot by a diagonal laser. Like, sorry, I need to be crouched. Okay.
Yeah, that's that sort of thing.
It's that, and okay. But like the first one, I mean, there is a lot to like here. I think that I'll come to most of it. The visuals are good. The tech behind this impressive. Some nice sprites and things like enemies. Like when Rick gets blown up or one of the enemies and they sort of fly out the screen. I think we had that in the first game as well. But I like those little touches and it's cartoonish and things like that. The controls, it's fast and responsive. There's no problem with any of the controls. Yeah, setting bombs and shooting aliens easy enough to do. Walking, crawling, jumping all work. And, as a trial and error platformer, it hates you. Yeah, it hates you. Of course it does. These games hate you as a player. But it's designed, and so it can be learned. And I think it's exactly what we said with the first one. And I think I said the same with the first one, probably a bit more. I like the first one a bit more than you, I think. But it can be learned, and it's something we said about a few games. Rather than just spamming annoying and spawning enemies at you, which is the design of the devil, and that is something I can appreciate. I'll always take design difficulty over random impossible, and that's because at least you can then prepare for this. I know I speak about the Dark Souls games; they're the same sort of thing. They're hard, but they're designed. You can get around them if you learn them and you get better at them, and this is the same sort of thing. So maybe this kind of design is a direct antecedent of that kind of game design. It's too hard for me though. I'm not saying it's not. It's way too hard for me. I can't do this kind of stuff. It's not my reflexes these days. I kind of enjoyed it though because it's a bit fun. It's got a fun atmosphere, even though it hates you and it's got things. The sort of design is better. This engine certainly works better for this than it did for that bloody Monty Python horror. And I like the presentation they have going on with these games, like the sort of interstitial sort of movie bits and the the wise. And like you said, I did like the fact that they knock his hat off. I think that was quite a nice touch and made me chuckle. I mean, these games have a reputation. That reputation is richly deserved. You're either going to put up with this and get into it and like the challenge, or you're going to bounce off it in about 10 seconds.
Yep. I didn't bounce off it, I have to say. I went into it, but it's just, I had no expectations of it being any greater.
We're going in with a different kind of thing. We're going to review it and sort of play it and see what it plays like and everything like that.
I went into the game with the same feeling, thinking, because I quite like Rick Dangerous, albeit it was just too hard. But
this is the same.
This was it's just the same.
It's more the same.
Yeah, more of the same.
It's more of the same, just different trousers.
It's a better sequel to this for Rick Dangerous than Ave de Monty was for Monty on the Run. I would say that.
Yeah, or Dan Dare 2 was to Dan Dare and things like that.
Yeah, I like Dan Dare 2, but yeah.
This is a direct continuation. It's more of the same.
It is. And in that respect, it is more of the same. And the Amiga version is also very, very good as well.
Although they've moved away from Raiders of the Lost Ark more into Crystal Skull, which obviously went out at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's got that sci-fi element, I mean.
Possibly a giant squid, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Rick Dangerous 2, it is what it is, isn't it? Just rock hard.
Just more of the same.
Yeah. And there we go. So that's our first 2 games this week. We're going to go away. We're going to go take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about TV and film that was going on in the UK in November 1990. So grab your popcorn and stay with us. And we are back. Let's first look at what was going on in the world of TV. It's an exciting landscape, I can tell you that. In November 1990. It is changing. On the 1st of November, the Broadcasting Act 1990 receives royal assent. The Act paves the way for the deregulation of the British commercial broadcasting industry and will have many consequences for the ITV system. The Act also sets out the terms of a licence for a 5th UK television channel, which would need to be a general entertainment channel with a remit for some public service broadcasting. Additionally, it's estimated that the channel's coverage would reach only 74% of the UK, and a video retuning operation would need to be undertaken.
Ouch.
Exciting times.
Isn't it just? And what did they do with Channel 5 and all that power?
Tell us what they did. What did they do with Channel 5?
Well, I watched the other day was the countdown of the 100 most boring things that happened to TV in the 90s. Weirdly, that was number 1. Do you remember Channel 5 when it launched? Do you remember it when it launched?
Very, very vaguely. I remember
it was launched by the Spice Girls.
Oh, was it that? Was that?
It was launched by the it was launched by the Spice Girls. Yeah.
Wow. What were they doing? Just being because there's 5 of them.
They sang like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that, and then it had Richard Whiteley on a TV show called Count Up, which was weird.
I think you're making that down.
No. Richard Whiteley, no, but but definitely the Spice Girls opened Channel 5. Yeah.
Yeah, Channel 5's not renowned for quality, is it?
No. It was always going to be the fifth wheel to the other 4 channels. I think.
Yeah, it still is. It's never really gotten out of that. Even the news is rubbish on it.
Well, they've had the odd thing on it has been quite good over the years, but it is like a hit and miss.
But it is very much do you remember these things from the 80s?
Oh, yeah. And it's, best things of the 90s, best things of the 80s. And it's just talking heads. Yeah, and then he fell off a chair. Top chair falls of the 90s. That kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you remember when that guy rang in and swore at 5 Star? Top moments of the 80s.
When people swore at 5 Star, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's Channel 5 for you.
It is.
Yeah, I can't say I ever watch it. Boring.
No.
2nd of November, BSB, as it was, merges with Sky Television, becoming British Sky Broadcasting. So it's still there BSB. Weird, huh?
Yeah, weird.
But those Bs would soon be jettisoned.
Yeah.
Of BSB's 5 channels, only 2, the movie channel and the sports channel, remain on the air long term. They both are eventually renamed. Galaxy is closed. Its transponders handed over to Sky One. It's transponders. It's like, hand over those transponders. We want them.
Neutralise that electro scan.
It's like a hostile takeover, isn't it? Who are you? We're Sky. Give us those transponders. You rebel scum. Now he's replacing the most part with Sky News.
Rebel scum.
That's what it sounds like to me. They're trying to sort of beam out the station and they sort of come in.
Return of the Jedi version of the Sky Takeover.
That's what it feels like. And the Power Station remains on the air until 8th of April 91 before being replaced with MTV. Was the Power Station, I presume it was a music channel? Was it heavy metal?
It was. No. It was just a music channel.
Oh, okay. I never had a squarial or an aerial or any kind of sort of thing, so I don't remember any of this.
No, we weren't having any of that on our house, that's for sure.
But no, Murdoch had moved in.
Yeah,
I suppose at this point, and he was taking over.
Yep.
11th of November at 10:40 p.m. It's quite precise, isn't it? ITV airs an ITN news special in which Trevor McDonald talks to Saddam Hussein in his first interview with the British broadcaster since his country's invasion of Kuwait in August. The Iraqi president calls for talks and attempts to link the ongoing Gulf crisis with the Palestinian issue. Wow.
Just shows you how times never change.
No, they don't, do they? I'm not going to say much about that because I don't really want to get into the politics of that kind of thing.
No, let's move on.
13th of November, Geoffrey Howe makes a dramatic resignation speech in the House of Commons, which will precipitate Margaret Thatcher's resignation as Prime Minister. This is the first significant speech to have been seen since television cameras were admitted to the House a year ago. It took a year.
Yeah. Do you remember his speech? Do you remember that speech?
Not the slightest.
It's the one where he was dressed as a parrot. Very dramatic. Very dramatic, yes.
I don't know. I remember
it was the beginning of the end of Thatcher. That happened. Shortly after that, Heseltine challenged her to a leadership challenge, and then shortly after that, she was gone.
And then John Major walked in.
And I'll do the job.
I'd like to say... yeah.
Grey.
Yeah. Spitting Image got him right, didn't they?
Bang on, yeah.
22nd of November. Oh God, it's just politics. Following Margaret Thatcher's resignation as Prime Minister.
Told you.
That didn't take long. 9 days.
It's a matter of days it happened. It all happened very quickly.
Bloody hell. This evening's edition of Question Time, broadcast from London's Barbican Centre, is transmitted in 2 parts with 2 different panels. The first part features Enoch Powell, David Owen, James Callaghan and Simon Jenkins, while Michael Howard, Nigel Lawson, Paddy Ashdown and Roy Hattersley are the panellists for the second part. Now, that lineup reminds me, you've watched Clarkson's Farm, haven't you?
I have.
When at the beginning he goes to that auction, and he goes, we've got every type of 60-year-old white man here. Amazon Prime told us we needed lots of diversity. So you can see there's every type of 60-year-old white man around. It's literally that panel.
When I think of those names, I just think of the spitting image characters. I don't really even see the people, which is kind of crazy, isn't it? But it was always made me laugh that Nigel Lawson was the Department of Work and Pensions for a long while, wasn't he? And his name is an anagram of "We all sign on."
Oh, he was Chancellor for a while as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. But his an anagram of his name was "We all sign on," which is ironic.
I was still shocked at this point that Enoch Powell was still going at this point.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
I mean, surely not. I thought he'd been long cast aside.
Enoch is not a name that you hear of nowadays, is it? There's not many Enochs around.
There's not. It's like Adolf. Adolf and Enoch, I think, have had a bad rep.
I don't think it's a bad rep, but just don't call your kid Adolf. Just don't do that.
I don't think anyone calls me Enoch either. I know, because old style names are a bit, kind of come and go really, but Enoch's not one of them.
No, that went the way of the Enoch. I think.
Yeah, it really
I think it's too close to eunuch. Nobody wants to be named eunuch.
Well, it's these stupid rivers of blood.
There's Eunice, I suppose.
Stupid rivers of blood speech, wasn't it?
Yep.
Anyway, 25th of November, the original air date of episode 3 of the 9th series of Spitting Image, which concludes with the film showing footage of Britain's homeless crisis, over which plays a parody of Dionne Warwick's 1964 song Walk On By. Piece introduces one of the legacies of Margaret Thatcher's government and is rare for the series in that no puppets are used.
It isn't. It's actually, I found it on YouTube. We'll post it in the show notes.
Yeah.
It is quite poignant, actually.
Yeah, it is. The lyrics are quite well written.
Crazy good, yeah.
Well rewritten.
It's a very good parody of the actual original song with the, if you see us sleeping on the street kind of thing. It's very clever.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's not good. It's not
horrible message, but very cleverly done.
Yeah, very cleverly done. That's a cheery month, isn't it? November. New shows. Harry Enfield's 8th of November is Harry Enfield's television program. Yeah,
strange show that.
Looking back on this now is a weird one. I think at the time you kind of went, it's just some funny moments, but looking back on it now, I'm not sure it's aged terribly well.
No, it's taken the concept of a catchphrase and just trying to give every single different kind of British nuanced character you can think of until some of them stick.
Yeah.
Which is what I took from it. I haven't watched it in a long time, so I rewatched the entire first episode.
Yeah, so did
when
I.
it's just it starts with the old gits. Then you've got Tim Nice but Dim and Mike Chumley Warner and all of those different things in one after the other, ending with that only me character. And I was like, it just all it was that.
Yeah.
Some of it worked. The Scousers maybe, which is I know nowadays with a modern lens, I don't know how really palatable that is, but that sort of stuff. But there's some stuff that works. The Chumley Warner stuff was always very well put together. As a parody of kind of British news, old news footage.
Yeah, probably best bits.
Yeah, and the Palace of Righteous Justice and things like that I thought was crap.
Yeah.
So just didn't appeal to me. So
this got because Paul Whitehouse is on it, isn't he? As well, he's obviously working on it, and this got basically usurped somewhere down the line when the Fast Show arrived and made instantly irrelevant because the Fast Show did all this way, way, way better.
Yeah, and what's weird is that the Fast Show is an evolution of Harry Enfield's television programme. Not a massive one, but just nuanced enough to, and it just goes on to the side of being a bit sillier. But some of the characters in it are just a little bit better at being less stupidly obvious stereotype.
Yes.
And more subtle nuance. Is the guy that's always short of change in the pub, for example.
I give you 10p, I give you 20p. Or Mike Angel. Mike Angel's amazing.
Exactly. But that guy who plays that Mike Angel is really good in the Fast Show. He's not in Harry Enfield. There's a few characters that cross over, but he isn't. But he's brilliant in that. So, you know, I much prefer the Fast Show to
just the naked shagging couple next door.
Yeah, just and then in that some of this, and they're also some of those aren't even sketches. Some of those are just somebody comes out of a toilet and tells you what he's been eating. It's not even really a sketch, is it? It's literally as short as it can be because it's fast, you know. And I think that's what works. Some of those sketches in the Wayne and Waynetta Slob, for example, for me, I didn't find it funny at all. It didn't work.
No, but then I know they got spin-offs. I think they were taken quite far. But then the better spin-offs from Fast Show were Ted and Ralph and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Ted and Ralph obviously became its own thing and was just incredibly good.
Yeah.
Things. I mean, then you had brilliant, squeezy cheesy peas and all that kind of stuff. There's too much in the Fast Show because it was just Scotcho. Everything was just incredibly just coming at you at 100. Yeah.
But actually, dare I say, better comedians, more on point.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the Harry Enfield stuff was just more stereotype attack, actually, and not very fun.
Well, if you think about where Harry Enfield came from, which was the Stavros and loads of money, wasn't it? That was his two big things. Yeah. So it was that
made into a show. Yeah,
more characters. Whereas the Fast Show was just random craziness. Much better for it.
It was exactly that.
12th of November, Pingu started. Or was Pingu something? But it says it goes from 1986. I don't know. Must be a new show of Pingu.
I think it was a new version of Pingu.
New version, Pingu. Yeah. And I've never seen that thing. What you've linked to, Pingo's the Thing.
Oh, Pingu, that's classic.
That's so good. We will link to that. So it's basically the Thing in Pingu.
In Pingu, yeah, it's really good.
Very funny.
It is. It's almost a shot-for-shot remake of the Thing. Yes, the dog sequence from the Thing, but with Pingus.
Or the bit where they're testing the blood. He just grabs it. But it's even got the bit with the defibrillator.
Yep.
But it's only, what is it, a minute and a half long? I don't know how they managed to fit it all into a minute and a half.
Because there is a lot of hyperbole in the Thing, I think, if you think about it. But
yeah, it's very
anyway,
good.
It is very good. It is good.
Yeah, 13th of November is Forget Me Not Farm.
Unfortunately, I did forget me.
I completely forgot this.
Never
I don't think I was ever aware of it, to forget it.
I found the first episode and I'm glad I've never watched it.
Yeah, exactly. 14th of November, Die Kinder.
Yeah.
The Children. 6-part television political thriller.
Yeah, those words have made it. I would never have watched it.
No, fair enough. 14th of November is Medics.
No, did you ever watch Medics?
I didn't. It's basically what we did before Casualty in it.
Yeah, it's got Doctor Who in it though, hasn't it? It's got Tom Baker in it.
Oh, has it? I have no idea. Is he a real doctor in this one though?
Well, yeah, he's not Doctor Who in it.
That would be funny.
It wouldn't be if he's in the middle of surgery, would it? Because he's not a doctor and it's just some guy dying on the gurney. He's like, what did you do? We're like, well, I thought I'd make an incision, but he just bled to death. I don't know why. I don't get it.
Screwdriver. I tried shoving some jelly babies in, but it didn't seem to work.
I did this technique with the Daleks and it worked for them. Right, okay, you're not a doctor and he's dead. Get out.
I'll just go back in time and bring him back. Doesn't work like that.
And that's a phone box. It's a phone box. Oh, someone help him, will you? Thinks he's Doctor Who.
Doctor Who? Yeah.
Take your blood-covered scarf with you.
Absolutely.
It's an infection hazard.
But no, I never watched Medics.
No, I didn't. No.
18th of November is The Silver Chair.
I thought this would have been up your street since you're a big fan of the Narnia series.
Books. Not the series. Not with Plastic Aslan.
Is the Silver Chair a book of the books, or are they so? Because it says this is the third and final series, but there's more than 3 books, right?
There's 7.
They've merged some of the books, or just didn't bother with the other 4.
Yes.
They're the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
The Silver Chair is the final book.
So they skipped a load to that one. Then.
Well, there's Magician's Nephew's the first, because that's the before it. Then there's Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Horse and His Boy, Prince Caspian, Voyage of Dawn Treader, Silver Chair. This is the penultimate one, and then The Last Battle.
All right. Well, they've managed to miss out the important ones then, by the sound of it.
Yeah. What did we get? Did we get Voyage of the Dawn Treader? Was that the other one they made?
I think that was the other one they made. But it says it's
Prince Caspian.
The third and final series of the Chronicles of Narnia, but you didn't do all the Chronicles.
No,
I don't know.
No.
Because they ran out of money, I think, really.
Yeah. Magician's Nephew is really weird. Because I reread them all recently, and that's a weird book. Weird book.
Okay.
But no, I never watched these. Never.
Only interesting note I've got there is that every year at Haddon Hall, which is one of the locations where they shot this, they do a festival of fireworks, which I'd recommend wholeheartedly that anyone attend. It's the beginning of September.
Oh, okay. I'll check it out at some point. 18th of November was House of Cards.
Oh, I avoided that. I remember it. It was because it was so current, wasn't it, about the Thatcher's demise, as it were?
Yes, it was, yeah. Is this the one that was recently remade? This is the one recently remade on Netflix, wasn't it, with Kevin Spacey and Robin?
Yeah, exactly.
Robin Wright. Yeah. I've just I'm in the sixth. I should remember this. I'm in the 6th season.
Yeah, but that's what it is. That early version.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really remember the British one though. 22nd of November is Nicholas Craig Masterclass.
Yeah, the link posted there just linked to Nigel Planer's wiki page. I don't know what it was all about.
I don't know. Is it a masterclass in Nicholas Craig?
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but there's no information on it.
No.
So, because if you click on that link, it just goes to Nigel Planer's page.
Something's broken.
Something's broken in the Matrix. Yeah, absolutely.
22nd of November is Sea Dragon.
No.
I thought you liked Viking stuff.
I do, but I don't like 90s Viking stuff.
Do you not?
No, because it's, you know what it's going to be. It's always the same, horny hats and cloth, loin cloths and drinking out of, antlers and stuff. I don't know. No.
I don't know what kind of Viking stuff you've watched. Drinking out of antlers.
Well, it's got Thormod and, jesting according to the blurb, and Thormod's, it's just, maybe it's very historically accurate. I doubt that very much. We have a very, very, very historically, generally speaking, a very historically inaccurate idea of what Vikings were and are at that time. And it's generally, we've got this it's such a revised version of that we have with Romans, actually. We have a really crazy revised version of the Romans and Vikings and things like that in this country. So in some instances, so incorrect is our version of history that it defies belief.
You mean I was lied to by the film Gladiator?
Yeah.
Aww.
Quite a lot. Even worse by the new, offshoots of Gladiator that there are. Gladiator 2 and what's that one called? For those that die,
those about to die. I got about 15 minutes into that and turned it off.
Yeah, it's just, Gladiator light, isn't it?
It's Gladiator shite.
Yeah. I don't think they want to call it that.
No. The best Gladiator thing is Spartacus, because it just eschews any kind
fiction,
of it just, Sam Raimi's Spartacus is brilliant stuff.
Spartacus is the best Gladiator thing, the old Kubrick movie.
I don't mind that, but I preferred the sequel, preferred the series.
You would.
I thought it was great. Finally, 25th of November is Come Home, Charlie, and Face Them, a dramatisation of R.F. Delderfield's novel about a young bank clerk in North Wales who gets involved in complicated relationships and criminal activities.
Yeah, probably be a huge hit on Netflix now if they release that.
Probably. It probably would. There we go. Let's get into some films, though. That's your TV. There's not much going on there in November, was there? Not a lot to get excited about.
Winter nights are drawing in, so people are getting their political on. And it's, of course, the news. At that point, by the way, remember the TV news is dominated by Gulf War.
Yeah, true. 2nd of November, for the films, you could have gone seen Young Guns 2.
Now, you've indicated here that I like this way more than you did.
I always liked this film.
No, I've never. I don't like any of the Young Guns movies.
Do you know? I could have sworn you two liked this.
Rick really liked it.
I'm sure Gary does as well. He'll probably tell me that he doesn't now.
He's a very nuanced man. Very nuanced.
Yeah, that's one way of describing him. But it's quite the cast in this, though. But it is what it is. There's quite a lot of
big soundtrack. I remember the big soundtrack.
John Bon Jovi. We've seen that recently, but I seem to remember this being quite a big hit as well.
There were all of the Young Guns movies. There was a bit of a cowboy thing going on around this time, wasn't there? A few came out, not far off Tombstone, I think, and a few of those others. So
and I think that's sort of the thing of it, wasn't it? It was Dances with Wolves when that appeared.
Yeah, that's imminent, isn't it? So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Must be 3 hours of wandering. If you didn't fancy Young Guns 2, you could have seen The Freshman. You ever
never
seen
that? No, never watched it.
I watched the trailer for this earlier on. The interesting about this trailer is the first part of this trailer has to be the inspiration for when Homer goes to New York. because Matthew Broderick is a thing straight out thing, and within the first 18 minutes in New York, he's been robbed, had his thing taken off him, and he's lost everything he went there with.
Yeah.
And the way it shows you, it's essentially when Homer goes to New York and he goes, "That's when the chuds got me." It's that whole sequence. But Marlon Brando is parodying his role in The Godfather. It's like a Don. It's weird.
Because he can.
It's so odd. I've never watched it.
He's an odd actor, though, Marlon Brando.
Yeah, him and Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, and if you're listening, by the way, Mr. Brando, anytime you want to bring our potato peeler back, bring it back. Thanks very much. You're
never getting that back. I've told you, that's long gone.
For God's sake. That was the gold one that we had. Well, it isn't gold. It's not, I'm not bloody made of gold. It was just gold coloured. But it was really sharp and good for peeling all sorts of things.
Yeah, but, someone made him an offer he couldn't refuse for it.
Exactly. Bloody potato peeler thief,
if you didn't fancy that, you could have gone seen The Handmaid's Tale.
Never watched that version. Yes.
No, it's obviously based on the 1985 Margaret Atwood book.
It is.
Which is a
bestseller.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Have you read the sequel?
No, the new one. No, I have not. No.
The Testaments. It's written from the Testaments of the handmaids in it, apparently.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't read that.
Oh.
If you didn't fancy those, you could have gone seen Kid.
Could have.
A mysterious man returns to his former hometown to take revenge on the locals who murdered his parents when he was a boy. C. Thomas Howell is in this. And I always thought, basically, even on the box cover of this, I saw the box and it was like, you saw him, he took you for a ride in the Hitcher. Now he's back or something. It was like,
yeah.
Did he what else? Because I saw it was in the Hitcher and it was only Rutger Hauer who came out of the Hitcher doing other stuff. But C. Thomas Howell, I always thought it'd be a bit bigger. It always seemed a bit of a...
Well, who's the girl in the Hitcher? She did quite well.
Is Jennifer Jason Leigh?
Yeah, she did all right.
She did fine, yeah, but C. Thomas Howell never really seemed to go anywhere.
No. I mean, he'll probably come back in a Tarantino movie. Didn't Jennifer Jason Leigh, isn't she in the Desperate Eight, whatever it was called, or that
Hateful
Western
Eight.
one? Hateful Eight, isn't she in
Quite
that?
Possibly.
I think she plays the crazy woman in it.
Yeah, quite possibly, yeah. But yeah, I always thought it'd be good. I mean, Hitch is great. I don't think I've seen The Kid, though.
No, never watched it. In fact, as I was going through a lot of these films, I realised I wasn't going to the cinema a lot at this point.
Well, I don't think a lot of these were coming to Grimsby.
No,
I think what this is that we had a chat about this on the way to Zapped Live, didn't we? Because we were saying that the amount of films we're seeing each month now is going up. That's because of the rise of the multiplex.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So multiplexes are appearing more and more across the country, and then obviously you've got more and more. You need more films to fill the screens.
Yeah,
so we're seeing more films every week. Hence why there's more films to watch. But we only had a 3-screen in Grimsby. At this point, so we never really got much. 9th of November, there was Flatliners.
Never a film I've liked, particularly.
Joel Schumacher's Brat Pack Go Goth.
Yeah, it's off the back of the Lost Boys, wasn't it? Well, not off the back of that, but he's the guy that made Lost Boys.
Yeah, I think
so it's got that vibe, big cavey environment that they're in and all that.
It's very much of that, lots of like, how are they doing this? Where are they getting all this stuff from? It's all very music. It looks like a music video.
Keith Sutherland done it again, isn't he? So.
Yeah. They remade this, didn't they, in 2017? Did you ever watch it?
I did not. I tend to not bother with some of these crap modern remakes, with the exception of Evil Dead Rise and a couple of those, which I've watched and gone, good Lord, that's gross.
And Fright Night.
And Fright Night. Fright Night is actually a very underrated sequel, modern remake, but this one I didn't bother. I never liked the original, so why would I watch the remake?
True. I mean, I watched the original and quite liked it at the time, but it was very much, they marketed it in a certain way, but...
I remember it being very brown.
No, it's very blue. I think it's very blue and white.
I don't know why I remember it being
cold. It's cold. Coldness of death.
Lovely.
If you didn't fancy Flatliners, you could have gone see My Blue Heaven.
No.
Steve Martin and Rick Moranis' vehicle. They obviously enjoyed working together on Little Shop of Horrors. Steve Martin is basically he's a mobster, and he gets put into witness protection. By
puts
Rick
on a
Moranis,
really bad mobster voice though in that.
Oh, he's dreadful. This was the point where I was tuning out of Steve Martin stuff.
Yeah.
I'd gone with him up to a point, but this was the point I was like, no more. No. Go back and do The Jerk or something like that again, or Man with Two Brains. That's when you're good. If you didn't fancy those, you could have seen Twisted Obsession.
Nope. Never came anywhere near Grimsby. No,
this was also known as Mad Monkey. It stars Jeff Goldblum, Miranda Richardson, Dexter Fletcher.
Nope, never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Who cares? 16th of November, there was Darkman.
No, you liked this film a lot, didn't you?
I did at the time. I did like it. I don't know if I'd be as much of a fan of it as I was then, but I was a huge Raimi fan at the time. I was really into Raimi stuff, and he was kind of a big influence on when we were making videos and things like that at the time. Just throw the camera around as much as you can. But the thing with Darkman is that if you do, there's a lot of stuff in Darkman, like it's a proto superhero film. So what we get these days, it's much more linked. There's stuff like what you get in films these days, the Marvel stuff, and especially this Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. And if you watch that new Doctor Strange film, which Raimi made, there's clear allusions to Darkman in it. Like, it's weird. But there's bits in Darkman, I think, which it was kind of, I mean, there weren't many superhero films around at this point.
No, certainly not very good ones. I mean, Superman, obviously, but not even that had lost its way by this point.
Yeah, by the end of the mid-'80s, that was gone. So there weren't a lot of superhero films. So this is kind of an anti-hero one. And there weren't, so it's a bit of a different take on it. Things like The Punisher and things like that there was maybe one of those around, I think, at this point. But it's a different kind of film, and it's interesting. It does, lots of clever lots of sort of clever camera stuff. There's lots of weird effects. And it also predates, because the plot is that he gets blown up, doesn't he? And they were making synthetic skin, so he can put skin on and sort of disguise himself as anybody. So there's lots of split screening with other characters. So this predates Mission Impossible, and sort of face swapping in that and things like that, which is, obviously, I think they took that from this. I think this is quite an interesting film, this. And without this, I don't think Raimi would have ever got the Spider-Man jobs and things like that to do what he did. And so, but yeah, it's worth watching. And it's, Liam Neeson is quite good in it, I guess, but it's all right. It's all right.
He plays a guy called Peyton Westlake in that.
Yeah, he does.
Now, I thought that Darkman was based on a comic, but it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's written by Sam Raimi. It's a character invented by Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
A talented guy, Sam Raimi. Crazy talented.
Takes some of its inspiration from comics.
Without a doubt.
The guy's
several,
disfigured and stuff like that, and creates a mask for himself and things like that. But it is a new thing.
Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, it's all right. I think if you go rewatch it, some interesting ideas in it.
Its effects let it down nowadays. They're really bad, but go for some of and that bit where he goes, "That'll be just fine." Still makes me laugh, but it's all right.
Yeah. If you didn't fancy that, you could have seen Madhouse.
You could have, but you wouldn't have.
Well, this is weird. The luxurious villa of yuppie couple Mark and Jessie Bannister is overrun by loads of uninvited guests who turn the house upside down and nearly destroy it. Supposed to be a comedy, but I couldn't help wondering, like, Darren Aronofsky see this before he made Mother?
That film's so dark. Yeah, it's the same premise, isn't it? Or will it go funny, haha, or will it go horror, like it does in Mother?
Like Mother.
God, that film's so bad.
What,
not bad as in no, I like the film, but I mean bad as in it goes to places that you don't want to go when you're watching that film. It's so horrific, so horribly horrific.
It is. I love that film. I thought it's a proper assault on the senses.
It's mad. It's a mad person
watching
film.
it, then you're like, oh, good Lord, it's too much.
Yeah, it's just I couldn't believe what I was watching at the end of that. It was so brutal.
Yeah, but then again, I do like Aronofsky.
Of course, that's Mother, not Madhouse. Madhouse, I've no idea.
I've never seen
someone being brutally murdered like that. Maybe.
Yeah, but I was watching the trailer. There's more and more people coming in. They're just thinking they just arrived by train, they arrived by rail, they arrived by air. I was like, this looks like thingy. It looks like Mother.
Yeah. Oh God, that's creepy, that film.
If you didn't fancy that, you could have seen Criminal Law.
I saw the boxes for loads of these on the video shelves.
Well, I watched this morning.
Oh God,
I thought
why?
I've got to give.
You're into these bloody law films, though, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. So I give this a bit. I mean, it's got because it's a two for Bacon, but Kevin Bacon's in two films this week. He's in one of the early ones as well, but he's in this as well. So it's a Kevin Bacon double bill. But this and it's got Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman's hair is wild. It's massive. It's crazy in this as well. But I've just watched it before doing the podcast, and it's all right. It's one of those. It was directed though by Martin Campbell. Interestingly,
of the Meatball family.
Of Meatballs, yeah. But he did GoldenEye, Mask of Zorro, Casino Royale.
Yeah, like Casino Royale's okay. The other two aren't so great.
I like Mask of Zorro. I like a Zorro film with Antonio Banderas. It's good fun.
Do you like anything with masked men in?
True. Reviews, late night stuff. It's all good. More masks, the better. So there's loads of masks coming up in a moment. But it took 2 years to come out over here. That's weird, isn't it? The films were taking so long to come out. Second one this week.
Sometimes there were weird nuances around the naming of things because there's probably something else called criminal law around that already had the rights to something. There was all that weird legalities around stuff like that in the UK. We had a really weird time with it.
Yeah. 23rd November. It's time for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, the first iteration in the real world for these bloody things.
Speaking of things,
I was never a fan, and I was never a fan of any of the Ninja Turtles, particularly whether it was animated or God knows puppetry, whatever the hell these bloody horrible looking things are.
Oh, they're just blokes in suits.
Yeah, I was not a fan. I was not a fan.
No, I wasn't either. But you asked what's the point of this film? To make lots of money from merchandise.
Oh, they're just war. It's more war in a toy shop, isn't it? Lucas, making more money off toys and mass-produced plastic rubbish. He single-handedly is probably responsible for at least 25% of the bloody plastic in the oceans.
Probably. If you didn't fancy that kid-friendly stuff, you could have gone seen something much more geared towards adults, and that is The Exorcist 3.
It's the one film out of the list I did go and see at the cinema with you, in fact.
Did you? I don't remember seeing this at the cinema.
Yes, I went to see it. And I'll tell you why I remember is because I fell down the stairs with an ice cream halfway through and made everyone shit themselves.
As long as it wasn't too crossed over behind someone walking down.
I tripped going up the stairs and sort of tripped over my own feet and rolled down the stairs in screen number 2 at Grimsby and just went, ah! Made everyone jump. Because it was a real quiet bit.
I don't think you went. I don't think I was that one.
Well, maybe it was Gary then. But it was either you or Gary. But if you're not, you don't remember, it would be Gary then.
I think I saw this on video.
No, I definitely saw it at the cinema.
I don't doubt you did. I just don't think it was with me. Because I remember you falling down the stairs with an ice cream.
Yeah, because I remember leaving, snipping out, and going to get ice creams and coming back in, and actually falling down the stairs, all of them, not just like one or two. Tumbling down all the stairs, because when you went into the screen number 2 in Grimsby, the screen was to your immediate left, and then the seats were actually, as you walked in from the door, they were to your immediate right, and you went up the steps.
Yeah.
There was 2 sets of steps. As I was going in the dark up those steps during the film, I tripped up and tumbled all the way down the stairs and went, ah! As I fell, and obviously made a lot of people shit themselves.
Up to your ice cream.
I was covered in it. Yeah, I landed on it. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
I'm pretty sure I landed on it. It was chalk ice or that kind of thing. And I remember landing on it and it just being splattered onto my jeans.
That must have been Gary, because I'd remember that. The stairs in screens 2 and 3 were very steep.
Well, it was
the steps.
It wasn't the steepness. It was me being stupid and trying to sort of hoy up them 2 at a time. And I just, my foot my foot didn't go fully onto the step. It just caught the edge.
That's because you used to have those big white trainers.
No, it might have been in those bloody stupid trainers. Yeah, but either way, it didn't. The grip of those trainers didn't help, did it? I mean, the troop trainers tumbling down and landed on my ice creams. I'm a big guy. That's a lot of person to be falling down anything. No wonder people are terrified.
Absolutely. Anyway, back to the film. Yeah. The film's really good.
It is. I rewatched it recently, actually, and it's really good. Really good.
It's really creepy.
Yeah,
it's unsettling. And it has the classic scene in the middle in it, which anyone who hasn't seen it, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I put an image of it here on our agenda. Yeah. But scared the crap out of me when I watched it.
It scared the crap out of everyone. Everyone jumps at that bit.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's probably the people like everyone likes Exorcist sort of thing, but this is the other best Exorcist film.
It's really, really good, and it's sort of it is a sequel to the first film as well.
Yeah, it's a proper sequel to the first one. Yes,
yeah.
And I love how it sort of changes halfway through. It's kind of this murder mystery, this weird murder mystery, and then it's just this sort of 2-header for like the last half an hour. Isn't it? It's like
it's Brad Dourif,
Brad Dourif and George C. Scott.
Yeah, crazy good performance from Brad Dourif in that. Really good.
Yeah, really good. If you didn't fancy those 2, you could have seen Blue Steel.
You could have gone and seen that. Did you assume the Blue Steel look when you went to see it?
Yeah, try to. So this is Jamie Lee Curtis. If you watch the trailer for this, the opening shot is just a bra. It's like, oh God.
Yeah.
Okay, this is where we are. Which is weird because I don't think, because it's directed by Catherine Bigelow, who's got a very good, and I don't think she had anything to do with the cut of that trailer.
Well, either that or she's making a point of sort of, it's a satire of other trailers. I didn't watch the full trailer because once I'd seen that bit, I wasn't interested in anything else.
True, but this is Jamie Lee Curtis is a female cop. She's the main lead. She shoots someone and she gets taken off. And turns out the killer is what's his face, Ron. What's his name?
Howard?
He's the guy in Time
Weasley.
Cop.
Oh yeah.
The one who merges into himself is him. He's the bad guy in this.
Yeah.
But I went and had a look for Catherine Bigelow films. She's got decent resume, actually. Like, that's
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
list of films. Near Dark, Blue Steel, Point Break, Strange Days, K-19 The Widowmaker, Hurt Locker, and Zero Dark 30.
Yeah, the more recent ones, the Hurt Locker was quite interesting.
And Zero Dark 30 is really good as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
both not bad.
Yeah. So that's quite impressive. But Blue Steel, I do remember watching it at the time, but I think it was a bit formulaic. Can't remember.
Same, yeah. I mean, wasn't Catherine Bigelow married to James Cameron at this point?
Yes, I think so.
Or married to a version of James Cameron, the Terminator version that he made to look after her.
Yeah, maybe. No, not the Avatar version.
Yeah, and then because she refused, they're divorced because she refused to go and live with him in his undersea kingdom.
Absolutely. She said he sleeps with the fishes.
I'm not getting in that.
Oh. 30th of November, his last couple, you could have seen Vampire's Kiss.
I've never seen it. I've always, it's on the video box. I remember that stupid image of Nicolas Cage in it, but I don't remember. It's a meme. It's never become a meme, a big meme.
It's a massive meme, yeah. This again didn't come out. This was made in 1988. Took 2 years to come over. I think I watched this, but I don't remember it being very good.
No.
And finally, something lighthearted to round off and get us ready for the Christmas festive spirit is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah, which is a good film, actually.
It is.
Of that
It
type.
is a good film, yeah.
Yeah, very competently made. Very good.
Well, it's Joe Johnston. It's his first outing as director. And as you've noted, he's a good director. Rocketeer is great. Captain America film is good. Yeah.
Jumanji, of course.
Jumanji, yeah, he did Jumanji as well. You put this official sequel listed under production called Shrunk. But there's 2 sequels already, isn't there? There's Honey.
Well, that's what I thought.
Blew Up the Kids.
But this one is listed. It's listed under something called Shrunk as a recent current production under Joe Johnson.
Oh, weird. So it's Honey, I Blew Up the Kids and Honey, I
blew up the onions.
Is it grandparents or something?
Something like that. They just blew a lot of shit up, didn't they?
Yeah, they made it large or made it small. It's like early Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. That's your film and TV. And it's a weird old month. It's a weird old month. We're going to go away, take a break, and we're going to come back. We've still got 3 games to get through, a crap vert, all kinds of stuff. We'll see how that goes. So please stick with us. See you in a moment. And we're back. We're back to finish off November. We've got 3 games left. The first one of those games, Graham, is a game called Tilt.
Hey,
just plain old Tilt. From Codemasters, this is. Tilt. Not a pinball game, so I was expecting it to be. Seems to, I thought it would be. Something else indeed. This was £2.99 and got 74% in the magazine. It was coded this by Stephen Walters. Not seen before. But it's not that he didn't release the game, because he did, ironically, do a pinball game for Mastertronic in 1989 called 3D Pinball. So, but it was never reviewed in Zap. So maybe one to add to the list. Of games we've never looked at. The music is by Steve Barrett. We've seen a fair bit of him recently, I have to say. He's been busy. Old Steve Barrett's been busy. So Tilt. This is a game based on those physical games where you have a maze, there's little sort of handheld puzzly type games. You got a maze, and there's a small marble or ball bearing, or sort of just a ball rolling in it. Yeah. You have to tilt it to roll the ball down the pass, and there's usually holes in it and you got to avoid them to get it to the center of the maze. It's one of them. This is basically what this is based on. I'm pretty sure everyone has played one of these types of thing in their lives. They were just everywhere.
Oh, gosh,
everywhere. As a kid, you got them in little ones. If you had expensive crackers, or you got them sort of in those drop machines, in vending machines, just all kinds of stuff. So everyone seems to
always come across one. Yeah.
So there is what it is. This is actually a 3D version of one of those. Okay, so 3D on the C64. Okay. So the title screen gives us a hint of what to expect. We've got the UI at the top. There's credits at the bottom. In the middle, though, is the word tilt, but it's in 3D, and it's tilting backwards and forwards in a pretty convincing way, I have to say. It's actually a really nice effect. So there's sort of 3D letters, and they're tilting back and forth, going back and forth, and it's cool. It's good. It's like, okay, that looks quite decent. The music is okay. It's short and jolly. It's very Codemasters. It's like Steve Barrett has taken on the mantle of Dave Whitaker. That's what I thought to this. But it's not offensive. It's not annoying. It's not brilliant. It's okay.
Yeah.
If you do like the title screen alone, though, I think you get a demo of one of the 4 mazes at one of the different levels that you'll need to progress through. But you can just press the fire, and that starts the game. Okay, it's not a lot. It's a budget game. There's no options. It is what it is. Once the maze has appeared, basically this sort of 3D maze appears in front of you. You'll see a ball in the maze with a green line coming from it. So the maze is 3D, and you'll see it. It's kind of, when you first start, it's tilted upwards. Okay.
Mm.
And the game starts, and the ball is there. And on the first one, it's in the bottom left-hand corner. It's got a green line through it. And that basically means it's like it's not going to move. Something's holding it in place. Now, you can tilt the maze with the joystick. So in 8 directions, left, right, up, down, and the diagonals as well. And that maze will tilt in 3D. And it's a pretty convincing effect.
Yeah,
I have to say, this is really good. And so that's it, essentially. So as soon as you're happy you're going in the right direction, and essentially it's going to the right, so tilt it to the right. It's nice, and it's really easy to control because it's just you're just tilting something with a joystick. And you press fires and it gets the ball moving, and the aim of the game is to get the ball as a whole, sort of in the center of the maze. It's all on a single screen, and it's just get the ball to the hole, by tilting it and tilting the ball so it rolls down the paths of the maze. That's it. The UI shows our score. There's something called the power level in the middle, and that power level goes down. I'll tell you how in a bit. And if it runs out, it's game over. And it tells us the level we're on. Okay, so that's what we are. So this is the level we're on is not the same as the maze. So because there's basically 4 different mazes. I'll come to that, and then the levels go up. And then there's finally a high score as well. That's what's in the UI. So we tilt the ball down. We press fire. We tilt the balls. Now what you'll see there's like these blocks, these doorways in the maze, and they block your way to the hole. So as you tilt them. Because if the ball comes into contact with anything, the walls or these doors, you instantly get reset back to the start of the maze and have to start it again. So as you're tilting, you can press the fire button, and that sort of retracts the doors into the wall for a brief moment, allowing you to roll successfully past them. You have to time it just before you're going into them to get them to sort of go back in and then come back out, and you go past them, and that's essentially what you want to do. So you don't want to be hitting any of these. Like I said, otherwise you go back to the beginning. If you get past them, like on level 1, then that's kind of all you need to do. You just kind of tilt this maze around, the ball rolls, you retract the doors, get past them. There's more doors, so then you go so if you come to the corner, you tilt the ball to the right, the ball will realistically start rolling. So you need to sort of allow for the inertia of it rolling one way to start rolling another way if you're pushing it up. And that's how you sort of direct this ball through the maze. It's there's not a lot to describe here because it's one of those type of things just on a C64 and in 3D. There's just the stuff that you need to avoid. So that's kind of it. The game's quite forgiving though, because what I liked about it, if you make it past the door and then hit a wall or another door, in other words, if you don't make it all the way back to all the way through to the hole, it puts you back at the beginning. But any doors you have safely navigated past, they don't respawn, so that makes subsequent runs easier. That's a really nice touch. I really like that. It's quite, okay, you've made it past that. Well done. We're not going to have to make you do that bit again. And I quite like the idea of that. You've got to be careful with your tilts, though. As I said, every time you tilt the maze, the power level on the UI goes down. It costs you power to tilt the maze. And should you run out of power, then it's game over. If you make it past all the doors and drop into the hole, then it refills up the power level. And also as well, if you die partway through the maze, then what happens is you kind of get a little track of where you got to, and that counts backwards, and that fills up your power bar as well. So you don't get punished too much for dying. It gives you gives you some of the power back that you use, allowing you to tilt again. And that's quite nice. And even if you run out of power during a run, which reminded me of like where, in American football, where the play goes over the last thing and they play until the ball goes dead. Then you basically get, like it says at the top, it gets battery backup or something, and it allows you to continue that run to try and make it to the end. So you don't just go, right, game over. It goes, right, can you make it? And if you make it to the hole, then you carry on. You get some power back for the next level. So the best way you want to do this is to always try and do the mazes in as few goes as possible and in as few tilts as possible, because that way you keep the power. So if you make it past all the doors, drop into the hole, then these kind of cool 3D rollers come on from either side at the bottom of the maze.
Yeah, cool.
And they sort of grab the maze and they roll the present maze off to the left, and the new one comes on from the right, and it kind of bounces into view, like off the left-hand side of the screen, doing, boom, 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 and sort of lands into view, and then the ball appears in that one, and you're off again onto the new maze. And that's it. So the mazes get trickier. There's only 4 of them, but they get trickier. They get diagonal pathways. So they're quite tricky because obviously it's not just up, down, left and right. It's the diagonals as well. And some of them have really sharp corners. So you'll be going up a diagonal, say at 45 degrees and then have to hook it back like 130 degrees because the corner is really tight, and kind of getting around that is quite tricky. There's doors there to try and get past it. There's only 4 of them, but these mazes are not easy to sort of make your way through.
No.
But you can do it, and if you get through all 4 and you make it to level 2, then there's a new sort of hazard appear, and these are the traps. So you've got the doors which go away when you press the fire button, but the traps appear and they have to be overcome in a different way. So to get past these, you've got to tilt the maze back and forth to sort of turn them off. So just before you hit them, say you're going to the right, if you're tilting to the right and rolling down to the right and there's a trap in the way, you have to tilt it back to the left and then back to the right quickly. It'll turn the trap off, allowing you to sort of roll, sort of jud back and then roll back over it. And then once you get past that trap, same with the doors, if you die, it doesn't come back. It's all again good. And so that's the main hazards in this. But as you make it further into the game and the levels go up, so every time you make it past four screens, you go back to the first one, there's the extra traps, there's the extra doors, your ball gets bigger. So the amount of space you have to navigate the actual mazes, that doesn't grow. Your ball gets bigger, so it gets trickier and trickier as it goes on. And that's it. So this is a high score chase. You're just trying to get as far as you can through these mazes as far as you can. And that's kind of it. Because once you get too big, you can barely make it through. I was watching a video on YouTube. It's by one of our patrons, AL82 Retro. He got up to level 10. On it, and the ball was so big he couldn't do it. He couldn't get any further. It's like, okay, it's just impossible. But that's it. It's a tilting maze game with doors and traps and a growing balls, and you kind of get trying to chase a high score. It's a really technically impressive budget game. It's got a remarkably effective and convincing 3D effect as its main hook, and it plays well, and it's fun and it's addictive, as those things are. And in a digital form, this could have been awful. If this had run at the speed of Driller, it would have been dreadful. But it doesn't. It kind of has that same kind of 3D look that Driller has, but because it's only moving that one thing, the actual speed that it's moving at is perfectly playable, and it works. And you can navigate these mazes pretty well. It's simple, yeah, but the physics on the ball and the 3D effect on it, it has like a really good shadow as you're sort of moving around and stuff that sort of turns and moves as you tilt the maze, so the shadow moves on the ball. It all works really well. Simple premise of the game is easy to grasp. It's one of those games you played as a kid, and it's not too punitive in having you having to navigate the doors every time. If you get past them, they're gotten rid of. There's not much else to say. As budget games go, this is another good one. Technically, really impressive. I think that's the main thing to take away from this. I really liked this and had a good, fun budget. It's not a sort of action puzzle. I don't know what you'd call this really. It's one of those rolling ball maze games, but it's just done really well on the C64. I was impressed, really impressed. What about you?
Yeah, it's good. 3D effect was quite effective, wasn't it?
Yeah, very.
Really nice, yeah. I thought this was really, really good. And I mean, first thing, I was relieved when the 3D, when the shadow kind of moved as it did, and the ball physics is very good.
Yeah.
I was like, so it can be done well. Bear in mind that some of the previous pinball type games we've looked at have been utterly rubbish. Remember Time Scammer? Goodness me.
Ugh.
So this had a lot going for it, didn't it? I like the graphics. I like the style of it. I like the fact that it played really well. I mean, this is if there was ever a game we said this is waiting or as a mobile game, I mean, goodness me, this is a mobile game before they had them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, with the gyro controls. Yeah,
yeah, completely. Because you would tilt your phone around, and in fact, I'm pretty sure there is a version of this.
There are loads of them,
but there's loads of them. But this had really nice stylings. It reminded me of a kind of Nintendo type approach to Switch game or in a Wii game.
Yeah.
The way the wheels come on and roll each level across and things like that.
They're really good.
Just clever game. Now, it's proof that there's still crazy innovative games to be had on the 64 in 1990, because this is definitely up there. It's got a lot going for it, and I really, really enjoyed playing it. It's challenging, but I just what can I say? It's one of those things. It's like having a real one. You don't really realize how much time passes when you're playing it until you've suddenly you look up and an hour's gone by and you're like, where did that go?
Yep.
It's a really, it's one of those games that gets you in the zone really easily. And for the price tag, I mean, it's gimme. Now, this got robbed. I'm sorry, at 74%.
I think so too.
I think that's such a travesty. You're telling me that the tie-break game was better than this?
No.
In terms of, no, absolutely not. This deserved to be no. In days gone by, this would have been in a different version of Zapped. This would probably have been a sizzler, if not up there towards gold medal territory because of its Very innovative. I mean, the Sentinel, which is a very innovative puzzle-related game in 3D, got no score because it was considered unscorable. And in those, Driller got 90+%. And this is, just because it's a budget and it's a puzzle game and it's not overcomplicated and it's not doing a lot of those things, doesn't mean it's any less the game. I thought it was really, really good and I enjoyed playing it. It looked good, sounded okay, but it was the playability factor here was high. That 3D is fast. And that's what this game needed. And I was worried about that. I was thinking, oh no, please don't tell me I'm going to be moving that thing around. But when I moved it, I'm like, hello, this is pretty nippy. And the ball physics was genuinely brilliant. Some of the best I've ever seen on the C64.
Yep.
When you're rattling that ball around, trying to sort of tilt it around a bit, and you almost find yourself banging the bloody screen almost, you're desperate to try and get it in the right place. And clever way to make this game more interesting with its little tips and tricks and things that it has up its sleeve. It's definitely worth a punt in it to £3. Go and play it. I think anyone that hasn't heard of it before, and a lot of people are like us now in completely uncharted territory with some of these games, I'd never heard of it. Go and play it because it's very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Tilt. We liked it. We did like a bit of tilting. Let's move on. 2 games left. Graham, this is over to you to tell us all about the impressively titled Wings of Fury.
It is impressively titled, isn't it? Now, there's a few things that are interesting about this. Firstly, I don't know when the last Broderbund game we had officially. We haven't had one for a while, I don't think.
Last Broderbund game now.
This is a Broderbund game. This is, I think, an Amiga game that has been given. Well, actually, I tell a lie. This is an MS-DOS game. That has made its way to the Amiga, the Amstrad, and the Commodore 64. It's weirdly, because on the title screen, it's got a copyright of 1987 and 1990. Make of that what you will. Okay. So, Wings of Fury then. So this is quite a nice, intriguing game in some ways. The blurb is quite extensive, as you'd imagine for something like this, and it's not what you think. So I can tell you what it isn't. It isn't a vector-based game. So it's not, and I did think it would be.
I thought it was going to be as well.
So the cast of people involved in this is interesting. So it was created by somebody called Steve Waldo. He's the original designer of this. But this version's code C64 is Mike Kiernan he coded. Now, I don't think he's coded much of anything else. I think he did one other game we haven't got to yet, but he did that for Accolade, which was Cycles, the international Grand Prix racing game. The graphics for this version are Faye Hoffman. Does that ring a bell? No. Faye Hoffman. She later does Castlevania graphics for the C64. Okay. This is Gerard de Souza. Now, his only credit is the Wings of Fury game. John Bokler. Now, he's interesting because he did the Grand Prix Circuit, Power at Sea, and Test Drive. Remember, these are graphics, but I think in these teams, where I say graphics, I think there's a few extra bits thrown in, I think. And then there's also Mike Kiernan, and he did the Cycles one, as I said before. Same musician is Chris Hatlid. Now, there's a whole bunch of credits for him, but interesting that he's responsible for the sound on the version of Metal Gear that comes out on the C64, which I'm sure we'll get to soon, amongst many others. And then the box art was Zach McMacken himself. It's actually quite a good box art for this. And this is, I think, if there's a port direction, this is Amiga to 64, because as is a lot of these sort of games, the Amiga graphics are very good on this. The Amiga version of this game is a bit of an Amiga classic. It's quite good. And the C64 has what looks to me like a scan of or a lower res version of the Amiga in almost every respect. Okay, so there we are with our credits. The blurb then, it is a time of fury.
Ooh.
It is 1944 and the world is at war. Europe is ablaze with a conflict that engulfs her like the flames of hell, leaving a path of destruction wherever it burns. The Far East, too, is being consumed by a furious struggle for dominance. In the Pacific Theatre, the Allies face an enemy possessed of great skill and a relentless determination. As the tide begins to turn in favour of the Allies, the enemy struggles ever more desperately to maintain the foothold it has gained earlier in the war. However, both on the sea and in the air, the US Navy proves to be more than a match for its opponents. One reason for this is the incredible striking power of the Navy's Air Force. It is instrumental in defeating the enemy in battle after battle. With the Navy's Air Command, one plane seems to be leading the fight for the Allied victory, the mighty F-6F Hellcat. The Hellcat is incredibly powerful and durable, a real workhorse. It's a real beaut, a real winner. Capable of bearing bombs, rockets and torpedoes, able to outmaneuver the enemy's best fighter planes, the Hellcat has established one of the best kill-to-loss ratios in the war. Now, you have the opportunity to fly your very own Hellcat. You'll be assigned to provide air support for the USS Wasp. The aircraft carrier has been heavily damaged and must make its way safely back to port. On this perilous journey, you must defend the carrier against torpedo bombers, rout the enemy from their island strongholds, sink enemy vessels that lie en route to your home port, and protect yourself by shooting down enemy planes. Strapping yourself into the cockpit, you face a tremendous responsibility. The fate of the carrier and every man on board has been placed in your experienced hands. As the signal officer gives you the go, you give your cat full throttle and take off into the unknown skies before you. Just minutes off the deck, you sight the first sign of trouble, a pair of enemy fighters bearing down on you from above. And so that's the basic premise of the game. Now, this is an interesting game with some really nice ideas and concepts and kind of construction hampered by perhaps one or two things that kind of just tip it the wrong way, which is such a shame. Now, I don't know enough about the modern versions of this, of which I have a feeling there's quite a few, because I remember you've mentioned every time we've seen an aeroplane game of this type, you've said, oh, it looks like this one, it looks like that one. So I'll leave that to you. Yeah, I'll leave that to you because I've never played those. So this scored 79% in Zap. It was $14.99, which is so it's a disc game, I think. I don't think this would have been a tape thing. Mm-hmm. You start the game and you get, the graphics, all the graphics in the game and the select screens and everything are directly pretty much ported from Amiga. They're very similar. And also the other versions, including the MS-DOS one. So it starts with a nice logo at the top, and then you begin by selecting your rank. Now, this is actually essentially the difficulty of the game, and it gets difficult, let me tell you. So You've got midshipman, ensign, lieutenant, junior, grade, lieutenant, lieutenant commander, commander, and captain. And each of those has different missions under it as well. So each one of these has a kind of a similar mission, but different nuances to those missions. I've used the word nuances a lot today. But this does have that. But if you're wanting to sort of get a good eye into the game, you probably want to start with ensign or midshipman just to give you the sort of take. Once you get past that, you'll have the code wheel, I guess. I just typed in the word egg because it seems to work for everything that we play. And it did.
So does Calibos.
Obviously. Yeah, strange that. Then the game will start and you get quite a nice view. So you start, at least on the level I started at, you start on board the USS Wasp, or at least I think you're on the USS Wasp, and a little sort of platform appears and your airplane is sort of raised up on that to the side on the ship. You've obviously got to take off, and then it's a tiny little guy. These graphics are okay. There's like waves at the bottom, black sky, tiny little guy, and they're waving you on, and you've got to take off. Simple as that. Mm-hmm. Now, the controls in this game aren't actually, I don't think you'd classify them as mega complicated, really. So essentially, to take off, you just push to the left because it's a side view. I suppose I should say this is a 2D side view, but with 3D elements here and there.
Chopliftery.
Yeah, so it's a side-on view, but there's been some nice shade added to some of the details. And you take off, so you push to the left. You're flying right to left again, which is odd because we did that in the other game, didn't we? That other one last time, the kamikaze one. Yeah. So, and in some weird world, there's that maybe that kamikaze sort of they saw this somewhere, and I don't know. Anyway, but so you start in the middle of the ship, you push to the left, and you will accelerate. You'll put your throttle down, so left is your throttle, and then you'll hurtle down towards the end of the ship. And if you push up, you will take off, and then you're in the air now. Across the bottom, the game is actually probably maybe, I'd say 5/6 of the screen because there is a chunk at the bottom, which is your UI, which is quite nice. And the UI has got some quite nice details on it. There's a little 3D sort of POV view in the middle. And then to the left and right of that, you've got your oil indication, your fuel indication. And then you've got kind of the sort of the number of different weapons you've got. Now, you don't have a lot of weapons in this game to play with. You've got machine guns and you've got bombs and things. But the idea of this game doesn't quite work that way because you've got to take off and land and do things like that in it. Mm-hmm. So you'll take off gradually, and then you will, now you can and will fly to the left. And the view at this point is of your sort of I guess, let's say it's a sprite-sized aeroplane from the left. Not badly drawn either. Maybe two sprites, actually, but not badly drawn. And you've got a sort of ground plane across the bottom where there's things that will be like the enemy turrets and bases and things like that. Now, they will shoot at you and they will they will damage you. And eventually, if you get too much damage, you're going to crash. But they'll shoot at you. But the idea here is that depending on what you're trying to achieve, you've got to try and either shoot things down that are attacking the aircraft carrier, because the aircraft carrier is slowly moving, remember, or you've then got to shoot down things that are attacking you, or there's turrets on the ground which you need to take out in order and bomb. So you can arm your Hellcat with different weaponry at the beginning to sort of take out the different enemy types. So once you're in the air, you'll be flying along, and it's at this point you're in kind of a sort of standard airplane view from the side. Imagine it's about two sprites to connect it to that view. The airplane isn't badly realised either. It actually looks a lot like a Hellcat, weirdly enough. And then across the bottom there's the water, and then there's the land. And depending on where you are, and obviously you're in the Pacific Basin, so it's actually made up of lots and lots of little islands. Now, if you actually sort of zoom up into the sky, a really nice thing happens in this game, which I've never seen in any other game. And the only other game I can equate this to in the way that you have a 2-stage view of the battle arena is Black Hawk. So when you go further up, you zoom further out. So your airplane that's 2 sprites becomes a tiny little version of the airplane in the distance, and you get to see a lot more of the landscape in the island. It's a really nice idea.
Yeah.
And so you get to sort of see, so you're flying, and you're still flying the same distance, but you get a much bigger view of what's going on. And if you see other enemy aircraft and things like that in there. Now, remember, there's no radar in this game or anything like that. You shoot at what you see, or you shoot at things that are shooting you, and they appear on the screen. So as you go further out and go higher up, you get to see a bigger view. And then when you slowly descend, it goes back to the previous view. I think it's really clever. That works quite well. Now, in an ideal world, and this is how the game plays out. So you do that, you'll shoot things, you'll drop bombs on some of the enemies. If you miss them, you've got to go and land again, which you can do. Because if you push your joystick to the right, your airplane will turn around and go the other way in a really nice little 3D animated way as well. It's quite a nice little animation when it turns around and the wings it's good. And then you can go and you can actually land on your aircraft carrier again, and then you can refuel and also then get more weapons, and then off you go again. So that's kind of how the game plays out, is that you've got this mission to complete, and over time, once you've done the mission, I think you're told to go and land. You go and do that, then you'll get the next stage and things like that. Now, and this is as far as I got in it, because I found this isn't because the game was super difficult or anything, although it is hard. I just didn't have lots and lots of time to allocate to playing it, so I just wanted to get into the nuances. And I remembered somewhere in the back of my mind playing more of this on the Amiga, but I didn't remember a lot of it from the Amiga. So controlling the aircraft is fine. Obviously, you can press, I think it's fire button to shoot, but I can't remember what triggered off a bomb. I think you maybe press button and down. I can't remember off the top of my head. But essentially, that's how you control it. And like I said, you've got your control panel at the bottom giving you an ID. You've got to keep an eye out for your fuel. You don't have an infinite number of airplanes either. I think you've got 3 attempts. And when you land, this little 3D view in the center of the console becomes important, because you've got to sort of align these two sort of things. So that you land properly, otherwise you can crash as you're landing. So it's not just as straightforward as just going to the right and then just dropping down. You actually have to land, sort of go down onto the plane and then align the two pieces, so you're actually bringing your nose up of the airplane to land properly. It's quite clever how it does it all. And so as you go across, you go for more complicated terrain. So you start off with islands, and then as you progress, you get more and more into it, and there's more things shooting at you. There's more gun turrets. There's more enemy types. I found there was quite a few different enemies in the game overall, quite a number of different things that will go at you. And also, it's worth remembering that they don't always just attack you. In fact, chances are they won't be attacking you. Some of them are dropping torpedoes and things to attack the ship. And it's the ship that's under attack. So you do have to take out the enemies that shoot at you. But remember that these are enemies that are actually trying to sink a damaged ship. So they're firing torpedoes and other things. So you've got to try and protect the ship at the same time as not getting shot down yourself, which is a nice balance to take. But principally, that's it. Like I said, you've got enemy ships that will come towards you as well, which you've got to sort of sink, and you've got to get torpedoes and shoot them and drop them. There's all sorts of fighter planes. On the islands themselves, as you go across, you'll see that there's soldiers, machine gun turrets, dugouts, anti-aircraft guns, barracks as well. And you've got to neutralize as much of that as you can, and certainly all the guns as well, because otherwise they'll shoot at the ship. I think that out of all of them, the tricky ones are the enemy torpedo planes, which can cause catastrophic damage to your ship. And if your ship gets too damaged, it's game over. So that's how the game plays out. And I have to say, as ideas go, this is my instincts. As soon as I saw this, I actually thought this was an arcade. It has all the feel of an arcade conversion, but it's not an arcade conversion. So I spent some time looking to see if there was an arcade version of this, and there isn't. It just didn't come. But you can sort of, you just look at it and you think, that looks like it should have been an arcade game. How is that not an arcade? Mm-hmm. Anyway, it isn't. The Amiga version of this is far more full of characters, enemies. And in fact, one thing you could maybe say about the C64 version, aside from one particular main problem, is that it's a lot emptier of things than the Amiga version. The Amiga one's got quite famous for its graphics. If you look at the Amiga one, take a minute to go on any of the Amiga platforms that have it, and even the DOS one, it's quite nice graphics on the Amiga one. The airplanes look nice, the ships look nice, it's good. You lose a lot of that detail on the C64, so there's not a lot of background detail to be had in most of it, but it is quite interesting. So all of that means that it's got quite a nice germ of an idea in there, And the way it is constructed, that zoomed out view, the side view, and the way it plays, with the way that the game missions work, it's not just shooting at everything because you don't have enough bullets to do that. You've got to think about how you're going to do this. And okay, that makes for quite an interesting game. The C64 one, though, has a big problem, and that's its speed, because it's jerky. Mm-hmm. It's just, and it kind of ruins the whole game. Now, that doesn't happen on any other version. It's only the C64 version that has that. Not granted, there's not a lot of versions at this point. But the Amiga one obviously is super smooth and runs really slick. And of course, the DOS one does. But the C64 one, for some unforgivable reason, and reasons I can't fathom, just has a jerky scrolling on it. And it's not like it's like terribly jerky. It's just jerky enough to make the game feel slower than it should be. Mm-hmm. If this had just been smooth scrolling with smooth flight, I think it would have been a genuinely brilliant game. Add a few more enemies in, because the C64 one is also a little bit empty of some of the enemies. So it's a lot of empty sky, even with that nice effect, which means that it goes from being, because in the Amiga one, you find yourself avoiding you're doing a lot more dogfighting in the air, actually, and flying around and zooming about, and you do a lot more of that. C64 one, because it lacks some of that stuff, you don't really need to do as much of that. It just feels like a bit of a solo flight. And like I said, an interesting germ of a game with nice controls and some nice little animations here and there, but ultimately jerky. And that jerkiness, I couldn't get past it. It really detracted me from wanting to get into the game. And because it was devoid of stuff and jerky, I thought, it was a block. It blocked me from enjoying it. And I really wanted to as well, because I thought, there's such a good little germ of a game in here. If they'd have took the engine from the Kamikaze game and used it here, because that was really smooth. It was just a stupid game. Yeah. If you combine these two things together, you'd have had a really good little side-scrolling, shoot, action, land, I don't even know what you call that game, just an action game. Unfortunately, it doesn't get more interesting because of that. It's hampered by that stupid idea to make the scrolling jerk in the way that it does. And because of that, I found myself, it just killed the mood of the game for me. And what could have been great was just one of those games you look at it and go, you were so close. You were so close to really having something great, but you just didn't think of that last little thing that really makes a difference to the players. And you miss out on that affordance, and it just looks like it's a jerky game. And, well, that isn't for me, I'm afraid. What about you?
Same. There may be a lot to this, but I found it awful to play and control. And that's if I managed to get the plane in the air, because every other go, it just plummet into the sea. So many times I just try, and because you've got to do up, left, diagonal. If you just push up,
yeah, you got to push up diagonal.
You stall and you just fall into the sea, and you're like, oh god, this is so annoying. Why just let me get? Why put such a blockage in front of me actually playing the damn game?
Yeah, why not just press left to start and he just takes off automatically?
Yes, exactly. Why even think, but if you don't push up, we're going to fly you into the sea. Where's the fun in that?
Completely agree.
And I'm not sure what to make of this, because it's not immediate enough to be arcadey, but it's also not detailed enough to try and be a sim. And it sits in some weird no man's land of being neither one.
Yeah, this version does. I think the Amiga one is a very different experience.
Yeah, quite possibly. But this one, it feels like it's trying to be both, and it doesn't. It's neither. And it's like, what are you trying to be?
Yeah,
you know. So the main sprite is nice. Don't get me wrong. That airplane sprite is nice, and that pulling out the camera sort of thing. So again, very nice. Really like those two effects. Idea, yeah, they're great. But the scrolling is not.
No, it's not.
And the whole thing feels like it's running at half speed, with unresponsive controls and woolly handling because of that.
Yes.
And trying to do any kind of bombing or anything. And most of the time, I'd get to an island and just get shot at sky and be like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Another early example I said of Luftbrowsers. I guess been quite a few of those now. I didn't like this. I found, and pretty much for the same reasons you did, I found the whole experience very underwhelming, because you're flying, you get up and you're like, oh, okay, them flying along, and there's nothing. Yeah. And, oh, that's a nice effect. And I got to the island, I'm dead. Right. And this is on the most, what is the first difficulty level? Midshipman,
yeah.
Yeah, that's playing on that. I'm like, okay, good Lord. Maybe it's on me. I don't know. I didn't find any enjoyment in this. I just couldn't, because it's just it frustrated the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So, I think you're right in the plaudits. There's some nice ideas here, and there's a thing here. I just think for some reason, I don't know. There's no reason why the C64 shouldn't be able to handle this.
That's what I genuinely don't get it.
Like you said, Kamikaze did it last week.
Yeah. With more sprites on the screen as well.
Yeah.
Just
same thing. Literally the same thing.
Well, as I think about it, this can't be a conversion of the Amiga one. I'm wondering if this is probably just they've converted the MS, because it's just pushing the graphics through the screen and not using it's not using the proper scrolling registers. And the Amiga one would. The Amiga one can. Well, it doesn't have a scrolling register, I don't think, but I don't know. Looking at the people who've made it, they're more familiar with 3D type games than they are with. So maybe they've used the 3D engine in 2D, and this is what you get.
Yes, this is what you get. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, what were the releases for this? So 1990 Amiga, Amstrad was 90, Apple II was 1987.
Yeah, so there you go.
DOS was 89.
So it must be an Apple II game first off then, I think.
I mean, weirdly, this then came out in 1999 on the Game Boy Color.
Weird.
There was a PC 98 release in 1989 and a Sharp X68000 release in 1989.
Interesting. So this is more likely than a conversion of the Apple II.
Yeah, I think they all are.
Which is probably the original version, so I don't know.
Yeah, it is. The Apple II is the original version. Here we go. It's Wings of Fury. Not much Fury.
No, not in this one.
Not jerky Fury.
Yeah, I was furious at the scrolling. And that was the only Fury I had.
Jerky Fury sounds like something you'd get at a barbecue.
Isn't it disappointing when a game that has all the... it's almost there. We've had a few of them over the time of this podcast, but every now when I get one of these, I'm always a little bit like, if you just thought about that.
Yeah.
4 or 5 little changes.
Or you put this in the drop zone engine.
Yeah.
Just super smooth, super slick, left, right scrolling.
Yeah, I mean, how many side-scrolling games have we had? I mean, just put
Iridium.
Iridium. Yeah, Iridium. Yeah, 50 frames a second Iridium. Goodness me.
Yep. And there's not exactly much moving on screen here.
No, that's just what I mean. It's totally possible, totally achievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Such a shame.
Yep, here we go. Wings of Fury. Well, I like to think we're going to slow things down even further now as we get our last game.
No. Here we go.
Let's get into our last game. Let's take this one easy.
No. Quickly.
And our next game, our final game for the month, is Greg Norman's Ultimate Golf. So we started this episode with another tennis game from a weird angle. Now we get to finish off with another golf game. It's all golfing, all sporting here. Greg Norman's Ultimate Golf, or Greg Norman's Shark Attack Ultimate Golf, as it's also known, or just Ultimate Golf. God only knows.
Stupid.
A few titles. This is from Gremlin Graphics. Mm-hmm. Weirdly, it's a weird release for Gremlin Graphics at this point.
Yep.
It's coded by Simon Blake and has graphics by Bernie Hill. And supposedly there's a tune by Ben Daglish in it.
Oh.
But I never heard it.
I didn't hear that.
And whereas the version we've got either removed it or whatever, I don't know. But I listened to it on Lemon. It's okay. That's the best I can say about it, really. Okay. It's certainly not top tier Ben, that's for sure. It's not Trap, that's for sure. So during the loading of the game, it kind of pauses and we're asked what course we would like to play on. And the two options that we had in the version, we had Gremlin and RAC Epsom. I know RAC Epsom is a real golf course. I'm presuming Gremlin is a made-up one. So once we've chosen which course we want to play on, then the menu screen will load in. There's a lot of options here. And I'd expect so. Something called Ultimate Golf. I'll come into the design of this menu screen a little bit later, but I'll just go through what our options are. We can choose to play a practice round. We can do match play, stroke play, or singles. I'm not going into the various rules and stuff for the different modes of golf because I'm pretty sure I've done that on previous golf games. It is what it is. You hit a ball around, and there's different rules, whatever. Suffice to say, the different modes of golf here are here for your delectation and delight. There are some preferences as well, so you can turn the wind off or on. You can turn the weather off or on, so whether it affects the ball or anything. You can change the ball effects like spin off or on, and you can finally choose to have a caddy if you wish. And this helps you to select the right club and right angle and all that kind of stuff and so on. That's what it can kind of do. There's also an icon to set up your player. And here you can set up a player or a computer player, and you can set your handicap, your experience, your stance, your grip, your swing, and your fitness. I'm sure this all means something and has a massive effect on the playing experience. I'm sure it does. Once you've chosen all this, you can load a previously saved game, you can save a database of players, and finally, you can play some bloody golf. But not before you have chosen. But there's more options because now you have to choose what clubs you're going to take out with you and what you're going to leave behind, because you have to leave 3 clubs from your set behind. Choices made, it's on to the course. So the first thing that happens is the 3D courses. And, it's in the way of the C64 golfing games. It's a 3D course, so it's drawn on in front of you. It's, at this point in time, and the first time you see it, it's not too slow. It's kind of done in grids. It's kind of a weird. It's not too slow at this point. Just the first time you sort of experience it. It's drawn in front of you, filling in the landscape with trees and bunkers and the usual golfing stuff. There's fairway and there's rough. It's a bit bitty and it's in this weird kind of grid layout kind of thing, but it's all right. Once done, the right-hand side of the screen will be covered, so you'll lose all view of the course. You'll lose view of half the course, and it'll be covered in loads of UI stuff. So you've got this information here, so it tells you what player is playing. If you're playing more than one player, it's got the wind direction and the speed of the wind. It's got the weather. It's got how many yards to the hole, your current club, the number of the hole and the par for it. It's got your present number of shots. It's got a stats card that you can sort of open up. Don't do that. And then some options. If you're in practice, change the hole, replay it, replay your shot, or move. Okay. Loads. It just takes up the entire right-hand side of the screen, half of the side of the screen. So across the top, there's also loads of options. These options are club, swing, map, info, play, sound, and exit. Exit is quit. Okay. And sound, turn the sound off or on, but I'm not sure if it did anything. If you press club, this allows you to change your club, but not, and this is the thing that's going to annoy you the most about this game, or maybe one of the things, but when you select club, instead of it just going, right, what club do you want? For some inexplicable reason, it has to draw the course view again.
Yes, it does.
It's like, what are you doing? I just want to select my club. Okay, so it draws the course view again, so same slow speed. Okay, you select your club, and then, okay, fair enough. Then you can click on swing, and this, you have a weird graphic of your ball and some kind of swing image as well, and you can place spin and side on it. It's a very complicated diagram. It looks like it was destined for a higher res machine because it doesn't really work on the low res of the C64. It's just a bit bitty and horrible, and it doesn't really seem to do much, and whatever. The map button takes you to, this is the map button, good Lord. This takes you to an overhead view of the map, and you can click on it and then get views from that place. Try and aim your shot better. It's incredibly counterintuitive. You can also supposedly walk around it. It's not very clear at all. I was clicking on it and lines were being drawn from point to point to point. And I was like, what's going on? I just want to get back to the course. Even with the instructions, it's not very clear. So, yeah, you supposedly use the map to change your direction. I don't know. Info takes you back into the info panel so that, your opening shot draws the course again. Got to wait for that. And play finally lets us take a shot. So this gets rid of all the UI and puts a player down the bottom and some bars on the left. And so on the right, there's these three panels. Okay, so there's two really tall, long ones, and there's a sort of a grey display at the bottom of those. So holding the fire button down makes the left bar go up. And that's your power bar, basically. It's quite long. The longer you hold it, there's a sort of a line just below the top, which is going to be the optimum, place to hit it, to make sure you hit it straight. So the closer you have, that's full power. If you go beyond that, more than likely you just will miss the ball, or I do. And so you'd let go where you want to hit it. There's no actual markers on that bar. It's quite long, so you need to know the strength of the club that you're using and kind of work it out. Right, so if this is the one wood, it's 250 yards, halfway is 125, and so on and so forth. You're kind of going to work it out yourself. Once you let go of the fire button, that will be your power will be set. Then the bar on the left will be full, and it'll start to decrease. And this is like a timer. So at the bottom, there's a display showing a swaying needle from left to right. It's going boing, 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 back from left to right. It's like a needle, and then it moves back and forth, and you need to press the fire when this is in the middle to get a straight shot. It's your hook and slice, basically. It's your hook and slice meter. So if you press fire and it's over to the right, you're going to hook it off to the right. If you slice it off to the right, if it's off to the left, you're going to hook it to the left. Okay, that's what this is. Get it in the middle, and you'll hit it straight. So, and you need to do that before the bar reaches the bottom. If you do this, then your golfer it's a fairly well animated swing. It's not too bad. It's a bit fast, and then you can watch your ball move away from you in typical golf, C64 golfing style. Physics aren't very good. The bounce isn't very good. It just doesn't look that great. The perspective's a bit weird on where the ball goes. And then you get, once it's landed, so you get a new view, and you get to do this all again. As you get to the green, you put the ball, and you get your result, and on to the next hole. That's it. It's golf. It's golf with all the options you'd want. But it's not as good as leaderboard, or even world-class leaderboard. And that's the main thing here. Because it's boring and slow. And it needs to draw the view every time you have to do anything. So that just kills this stone dead. We said this about that puzzle game, Atomics, where there's a thing which gets in between you and the play, and it gets more annoying the more it does that thing. The more times you have to see it draw the sodding view in front of you again and again and again, the more time you're just going to go, where's my world-class leaderboard disc? Or, file, I'm just going to play that. Because it's much better. The physics are not as good as well. They don't seem as good as the Iron World Class Leaderboard. That's still the pinnacle of the genre of the C64. This doesn't come close. It's clearly a downport from the Amiga version, and it shows. It's got bitty graphics. The menus at the front end, they look like they're designed to work on a resolution and color scheme that the C64 doesn't have. I can imagine those menus on the Amiga looking all nice and sharp and clear and high res, and here they're kind of fuzzy and bitty and blurry, and they're not very nice, and it's not very good. Go back and look at the leaderboard menus on leaderboard, and that kind of just had that kind of scoreboard, didn't you? And how many you want to play would be clean, efficient, and clearly designed for the C64. That's what it was like. There you go, it works. You don't need this kind of stuff. As was the control system there. Easy to understand, hard to master, and more importantly, all on one screen. Yeah. No changing, no having to redraw. You could move it left and right. You could aim left and right, and it would redraw, obviously, as you moved left and right. But, you had just the thingy, didn't you? You just had your pointer and just to aim. What the hell? Golf was fixed and sorted on the C64 in 1986.
Yep.
We're now in 1990, and you're trying some weird crap, and it's like, what are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? You're flicking needlessly from menu to menu in order to do things like aim and select a club, and having to wait for the bloody course to redraw every time. And every time it does, what felt not quite too slow at the start feels like an eternity towards the end.
Yep. In
a world where World Class Leaderboard is probably out on budget by now, what's the point in this? What is the point? $9.99? Yep. No. 75%? No. There's golf, but clunkier and slower than you played it before. Well, that's just great. Okay. Greg Borman's Ultimate Golf. This was dull and rubbish. Go play World Class Leaderboard and forget this ever exists. What did you think?
I didn't get that from your reviews.
Was I not clear enough? I can go on a bit longer if you want.
This game should not be on the C64. Simple as that. It was built for the Atari ST. It was ported to the Amiga, where their computers are more capable of displaying the resolution and graphics that this game needs to operate. The C64 is not. It was clearly put out on the C64 by Gremlin because they wanted to make whatever cash they could from Greg Norman's license, whatever that was.
Yeah.
So this shouldn't be. And the proof is that the game is utterly crap. It's utterly unplayable garbage. Go and play World Class Leaderboard. Go and play any of the leaderboard games. Forget this thing exists. It is awful. Boring, way it draws the screens all the time. It's so dreary. I even took a screen grab of the screen, and I managed to get that while it was drawing. It's just so crap, blocky, horrible, unplayable, uninteresting, dreary golf. Everything that World Class Leaderboard tried hard to avoid, and in doing so making it ultimately super approachable as a golf game, which has no right to be on the C64 done that way. They got it right, like you said. When you've got it right, then don't release this. But you know that they've just released this because they released it on all formats to make as much money as possible. It's just awful. Everything about it is awful. It's a terrible, terrible thing. It's not that great on the Amiga or the ST either. The ST one's passable. The Amiga one's a crap version of the ST, and this is a crap version of all of them. So you've just decrapped it. It's not as much a demake as a decrap. I don't like it. It uses far too much brown anyway. Get lost. It's a piece of shit. It's rubbish. Poor Greg Norman, he'd fly over from Australia and beat the shit out of someone with a golf club for this. Because he was quite an angry player, wasn't he? It's how come he got his nickname, the Shark. He was native to Australia, and he was also quite aggressive. So if he'd have seen this game, he'd have flown over and beat someone to death with a 9-iron. I don't doubt that. So Good job he's a long way away.
Absolutely.
Rubbish, utter rubbish.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Woo, what a way to go out in November. Woohoo. And he got rubbish. 75%. These scores are crazy.
That is the biggest shock of all. I don't get it. That's not possible. This is 30s for me, even if that.
Clearly, I mean, we've said this before, but I think the scores are being inflated because there's less games, and they're trying to sort of say, no, the C64 is still good, look. It's still good. It's still good. Let it go, Homer. Let it go.
It is, but then reward the games that are like Tilt and stop making every game like... I mean, this is nowhere near... What did this get?
75. Wings of Fury, 79.
It's just, no. Wings of Fury was a good idea made jerkily. This is a crap golf game. They need to give them the score of what they are.
This got the same as Rick Dangerous 2.
Well, that then shows you, doesn't it, that this has also got, I think, along with Ocean, Gremlin have also a company that get a great big bloody,
something's going on here.
They get a bit of a retro pass, don't they, a lot of the time, because they made Lotus and a few other games that have made them quite famous, and Monty on the Run or whatever, and a few others back in the day. But some of their games at this point, because they're focused on the Amiga completely at this point, most of the games that are coming out were utter shit, and this is no exception anyway. But like you said, score-wise, it's just ridiculous.
It's all over the place. All over the place.
Yep.
There we go. So this week, that's it. That's November. We looked at Tiebreak. What did you call it? Robot tennis.
Yeah. Robo tennis. Yeah.
Robo tennis where you can't see your robot. It's never a good idea. So yeah, Rick Dangerous 2 is exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah, it is exactly that. It's more Rick Dangerous.
This would be DLC these days.
Yeah, it would actually. Yeah, that's a really good
DLC
point.
levels. Tilt. Surprisingly good budget.
Best game of the lot.
Best game of the month. Best game of the week. Probably looking at the previous week as well. Maybe Quick Snacks. Some people really like Quick Snacks, but I think Tilt's my favorite game.
Both of those are good games for you.
Budget games showing up the.
Yeah, good.
It was. Wings of Fury.
Yeah, Wings of Bory.
Yeah. So, there's not much of that. And Greg Borman's Ultimate Golf.
Ultimate Bore.
Ultimate Bore. Bork Attack. Oh dear. Yeah, anyway, there you go. That's it. Let's leave the games. We've still got stuff to do. We have a crap vert. Now, to my shame, I missed this in the magazine and it took you to point it out to me.
It did.
So this is a crap vert for a game called Future Basketball. And seeing as you found it, Graham, would you like to tell us all about this bloody thing?
It's if you imagine if a group of people from Mad Max got into some kind of space dome to play a really weird version of basketball with a hoop and a net and he's got a chainsaw hand. That just gives you an indication of the crazy. But the cover is essentially an action shot of that game of Future Basketball happening. And there's just right from the top all the way down to the bottom a category of crazy things wrong with it. Aside from the badly drawn characters, of which there's one on the floor in a position he shouldn't be. The logo at the top of the thing is it's got a pillow in, not a pillow emboss. It's got a bevel on it. It's got a goddamn bevel on it.
What the 3D writing?
The Future Basketball has got a fucking bevel on it. No.
Have you looked at the screenshots for it, by the way?
Yeah,
because it's a massive rip-off of Speedball.
Oh, a total Speedball rip-off. I mean, obviously, this is Future Basketball, not... Is it similar to Speedball? Well, it involves a ball at speed, if that's what you mean.
In the future, and there's 2-on-2. It's Speedball, then.
It's Speedball. But it's got a bad logo. It's got future... future writing doesn't mean that you just arbitrarily take out key parts of the letters to make it... Because an F without its conformant parts is not an F.
The U's really weird.
It's just really stupid.
The U just looks like a smiley binary face. Like it's like two eyes and a mouth.
I can't stand it. I can't stand the fact that they wrapped it in some kind of grid effect. I can't stand that they've used a bloody chisel effect on it. And I can't stand the fact that it's got a chromium effect. All of those things are so bad, it's actually making me angry thinking about it. But when you get down to the actual physicalities of the people involved, there's two red players who are with sort of, I don't know, plastic Mohicans, I guess, fighting for the basketball. But one of them's firing a laser at the ball. I don't get it. One of them's got a laser fist, a ball laser fist. So he's got a ball fist. And another one's got a chainsaw fist. Do they all have one hand that's a weapon? I think they do, and one hand that's a...
Yeah, I think it's a portable hoop. One of them carries a hoop around.
It looks like it.
Laser hoop.
There was the guy on the far right. These are all like, muscly white guys, essentially. But the guy on the far right has got, of the image, has got a claw hand, but only one leg, it looks like, because it's the way it's drawn, it looks like he's got one leg missing, below the knee.
Yep.
And then he's grabbed the head of a person who looks decidedly unhappy and miserable in the middle. It's not pain face, whereas another guy's jumping off his shoulder, but he's got his foot in his shoulder spike, so he's going to be going, because he's got his foot right in his shoulder, whatever you call them things. Pauldrons. And then there's a guy underneath all of this, just... I'm guessing that somebody slipped and he's not in a good way, that guy. It honestly looks like he's been brutally penetrated in a Kaiser Soze kind of fashion that...
No one wants to think about that. No,
it doesn't look very pleasant for him.
A futuristic basketball simulation with sinister and barbaric rules. Play to win, play to survive.
Yeah, it is an Amiga RT game, I guess, which is all right.
Yeah.
But it is blatantly a Houston ripoff of Speedball. There's no doubt about that.
Massive.
But it just struck me that the action scene that they've put in there, it's their faces that got me. They've drawn the action body parts are in action, but the faces just don't look like they're from the same thing. The guy at the top's like, hello. Underneath him is a fake guy. It honestly looks like someone's just taken his balloon off him. The guy at the right's just kind of looking in the middle of nowhere, and the guy at the bottom's like going, oh, after someone just slipped.
What use is the blue guy's laser arm?
That's what I don't get it. And they've both got them as well, but the guy who's on the floor, in pain, ball fists aren't any good for anyone. And chainsaw fists and claw, I get, that's quite aggressive. Just hitting someone with a ball on the end, that's rubbish. No wonder the blue team are losing.
Oh, it's dreadful, isn't it?
Utterly shocking, yeah. Utterly
it's one of those that sounded good in practice, and then someone, hey guys, the artwork. Oh, what have you done?
Yeah, and they've shaded every single nuance of their musculatory system with like a really aggressive gradient shade. So they look like, the red guys look like they've been in 50-degree heat somewhere, and they've been brutally sunburned, all of them.
And it's all happening in some big hexagon-walled, glass-walled space dome.
Oh, it's just not very good. Not very good at all.
No, I don't have that future basketball with the space dome going through behind it, which sort of interrupts with the sort of gaps in the letters as well.
That writing is absolutely shit. So bad. It's not even properly centered or anything. It's just like, future basketball. Who did that? Who does that? An E without the stick of an E is not an E. All right? It's not an E. See, on the U, yeah, I get it. There's 3 component parts in their U. There's the left stick, the right stick, and the stick at the bottom, and they've put a gap between them. Okay, that's still a U with a gap.
It looks like a face to me. It's a smiley face.
But it's principally the letter with a gap in it. But an F with that bit taken out is not an F. And an E that's taken out is not an E. It's just stupid. Oh, don't get me. I can't think about it. It's making me angry. The more I look at that, the more I'm spotting things that are making me angry.
Let's move on. Let's leave it behind. Let's leave future basketball where it needs to be. Well behind in the past.
Yep.
Forgotten speedball knockoff.
Yep.
Right, let's have a look at the charts. And let's count down from 10. It's mostly budget, as you can probably imagine. In at number 10 is Temple of Doom.
It is.
It wasn't very good, was it? Down to number 9 is Shadow Warriors. That's from 3. Quattro Sports is still in at number 8.
Okay.
Some Codemasters board games thing, I guess. Salamander on the hit squad comes in at number 7.
Not bad value.
That's not bad. Fantasy Dizzy is down to number 6.
Okay.
5. Pro Boxing is down to number 5 and 1. Daley Thompson's Olympic Challenge on the hit squad is straight at number 4.
Okay.
Paperboy's down to 3 from 2. And top 2, we've got Rastan straight in at number 2 on the hit squad. Hopefully maybe they fixed it, but probably not. And straight in at number 1 is Quattro Adventure by Codemasters. Now I'm kind of hoping that's you driving around in an Audi Quattro.
I'm willing to bet that it's not.
I don't think it will either. Counting down from 11 is Yogi's Great Escape.
Okay.
In at number 12 is Prince Clumsy.
The hell's that?
No idea. 4x4 Off-Road on the Kicks label at 13. And at 13, Match Day 2 down to number 14. Rough and Ready down to up to 15. Whatever that is. Summer Olympiad down to 16. Straight in at 16. Quattro Combat. Got a number of these Quattro ones, aren't they?
Codemasters. 4 quality games in there.
4 something or other. I'm going to have to look what they are. Impossible Mission 2 is straight in at number 18 on the Kicks label. Road Blasters down to number 19. And finally, International Manager.
No, not that
what
thing.
kind of manager? We don't know. Maybe you're managing like international trade goods, Tesco's, various stores.
The dreariest game ever made.
International Manager.
Middle Management Simulator.
Or it could be International Manger.
Could be, yeah.
Because it's just written MNGR. So,
could be.
I don't know. Could be. Where are we sending this today? This Manger.
It's just the most boring game ever made, isn't it? The crazy game of middle management. Oh no, someone's got to make a decision. Call the committee.
yeah.
I'm just closing the bureau for an hour. NSC, no.
What a boring game. International Manager. There were some budget titles released this month or reviewed in this month's issue of Zap. California Games for $2.99.
Okay.
Bit of a bargain.
It's a bargain.
QDex for $2.99.
That is a bargain as well.
That is a bargain. Star Wars for $2.99.
For $2.99, it's all right, but it's not very good. But
and Barbarian 2 for $2.99.
That's good for £2, £3.
Yeah, £3. That's a bit of a bargain, isn't it? I expect to see those probably in the charts soon, I would have thought. So we are taking a week off.
We are
next week. We're on holiday, basically. So it is the end of summer holiday, and we're both on holiday. Unfortunately, we're on holiday in separate weeks, so we've kind of had sort of organised sort of recording anything. So we've kind of we had the games that Zap forgot last week, but we're kind of taking a break for next week before we finish off the year. So there won't actually be a release next week. So we're going to be enjoying ourselves out on holiday, but we'll be back in 2 weeks' time where we will finish off this year. We've got 2 episodes planned for December. There's not many games, only 8 games.
Okay.
In the December issue, in the Christmas issue. Those games are Chase HQ 2, Special Criminal Investigation.
Right.
That's an interesting one because it's cart only.
Okay. Curious.
It's the first of Ocean's cart only games. And I do believe that is based on the Turbo Outrun. It's by the same people who did Turbo Outrun.
It looks exactly like Turbo Outrun.
Yeah. So it's going to be better than Chase HQ, is what I'm saying, which couldn't be worse. We'll be looking at Macadam Bumper.
Okay.
Who knows what that is? Sabutio.
Oh, goodness me.
Made a game of Sabutio.
That can't be the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Okay.
Oh dear. Midnight Resistance, which I think was supposed to be quite good. Puzznick.
Okay.
Whatever that is. Atomic Robo Kid.
Okay. Meant to be quite good.
That is a good arcade game. It's a really good, fun arcade game. I don't know what the C64 version is like, but it's a nice arcade game, that is. Something called Plotting.
Okay.
That's cart only as well.
Right, okay.
The cart game's coming in at £20 as well, by the way.
Ouch.
Price is up. And finally, something called Badlands.
Okay.
Some low scores that month as well. Comparison that all the ones this month were in the 70s or higher.
Yeah, not so much them, but
there's a 26, a 41, a 41.
Oh dear.
So we can only wonder what they're going to be like. I'm not telling you which ones are which, though, but I'm interested to see the Sabutio game.
I'm more curious than interested, but okay.
How do you make it see? I don't get it. Just do football.
Maybe you get a special device that you have to flick. Be very careful with that.
Just do a football game. Sabutio is already a thing of football. It's another step removed from the real thing.
It's a one license that nobody had done, isn't it? So God help us.
Weird. I don't know. Yeah, I don't get it. It's already a simulation of football.
Yeah, a dull one, really.
Oh God, Lord!
Was you into Sabutio actually? Just as a curiosity.
Yeah, I used to love it. We had loads of teams.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
My brother just used to get it all, and I used to play that. But yeah, I used to love Sabutio. We used to play it. We even had a artificial pitch as well. The one that was properly thinking. There was the grass one, the grass type one, and then you get the smooth.
Oh, mate, mine was well into it. He even had the plastic stands that you put around it as well.
Yeah, we had floodlights.
Well into it. Yeah, he had all of that. It was well into it.
I know. It was all up in a box in the attic. Got lost in time.
Worth a lot of money, some of those Sabutio
I know. I cry
now.
myself sleep sometimes thinking about how much money was in that box.
Yeah,
what
some of them are worth quite a lot of money, some of those.
The amount of teams we had. Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Anyway, Sabutio, we'll be looking at that in a few weeks' time. So there we go. That's it. That's November done. We've only got 1 month left. So in about 4 weeks' time, we'll be expecting the Golden Bread Bin Awards, I guess. It'll be interesting to see what goes on for that. Anything you want to say about November, Graham?
No, not particularly. I mean, there's been a couple of little good budget games in there, but I don't know. The C64 is coming to its end, but it's not going into the night quietly, is it? This one, it's do not go gentle into that good night. It's taking it seriously. No. I mean, it's good. I don't necessarily want it to just die off and be forgotten. Obviously, it never was, but just some of these games are not the hurrah that it wanted at the end. Do good ones, but they are what they are, I guess.
They are what they are, yeah. Hang on a minute. I thought Creatures was reviewed in issue 68.
Clearly not.
Maybe I missed it. Maybe I need to look. Let me have a look. Hang on. Before we go, I'm going to do some quick reporting. See if Creatures. What was that in? Yeah, it is. I've missed that. There's more games. There's more games left.
How did you miss that? It's like the big game.
I know. I don't know. I think I might have, because I thought there was 3 episodes for thingy, but I must have missed one. Anyway, there's 4 of the games somewhere. So there's going to be surprises coming up But Creatures is definitely in there. I thought it was. I was like, where's Creatures? I know that came in December.
Well, no, because it's in December. Yeah, it's in December 90.
Yes.
So it will be. Yeah, it should have been in there.
So I'll need to re-review that. Those 8 games are coming. I'm pretty sure it might be 3, because I think I split it to 3 episodes, 3 4s. So I think there's 4 of the games that probably I've missed out somewhere. So I do apologise for that, but it's what it is. They're coming. They're coming. But don't worry. It's been we need this is why we need a holiday.
Yes, this is why we need a holiday.
Because it's been a tiring year. As ever, you can support the podcast by signing up to our Patreon if you would like to do that. That's patreon.com/Zapped to the Past. Sign up for price for sandwich, price for coffee, price for pint of beer. It's pretty much what that is. You can sign up to you can not sign up, but you can support us by buying us a coffee at ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/Zapped to the Past. That's always appreciated as well. Rate and review us, again, always appreciated as well. We always like that. If you want to do that, and please do that, it puts us into algorithms and people hear about us, and it's all good. So, and people like that. Or just give us a shout out on Twitter or Facebook or X, whatever it's called these days, and that's all good too. Or Blue Sky or Threads or whatever. And on that note, I think I'm going to leave and go because I'm tired.
Aye.
So, as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Ruddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Ruddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.